Chapter 1390. At first, Elder didn't dare to go in, but after seeing Lenny walk in without any problems, he followed. What pissed him off was that not only did he lose his bloodline, but he also lost an eye. It was a huge loss. The wounds on his arms and legs were easy to recover from, but his testicles were pierced and his eye was blinded by poison. It wasn't that easy to recover from. There was nothing special about this stone room, and it looked like a bedroom. There was a bed, a table, a small cabinet, and some simple living utensils. It was just like the place the owner lived in when he was alive. If Lenny's guess was right, these rooms and this stone room were all remodeled based on Zhang Liju's lifetime. The things and furniture were the same as before. Zhang Liju had no children, no disciple, and he lived his life alone. But since there were countless people who were indebted to him, naturally, there would be people who would pay to build this tomb for him. On the wall of the room, there was a line of words. Medicine can cure the poison, but no medicine can cure the gentleman on the roof. Lenny looked at the words on the wall. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Perhaps this was Zhang Liju's warning to tomb robbers. Or perhaps this little trap had always existed in Zhang Liju's house. And if it was an old friend who came to visit, naturally it would be his best friend who knew how to cure the poison, but the gentleman on the roof could only change his profession. Elder Yu looked at the words on the wall. He was shaking with anger, but the owner of the tomb had died a long time ago, and he couldn't do anything about it. How could he do that to a dead man? He looked around the room, and his eyes landed on the small box on the bedside. He couldn't help but laugh. This Zhang Liju was really on par with the old man at home. There was also a small wooden box on the old man's bed. Inside it were some miscellaneous items, such as paper, pen, glasses, and some other commonly used items. Of course, the old man also had a medical notebook, which was placed in this box. Therefore, Lenny didn't say anything and went straight to the bed. He took the box and opened it. Sure enough, there were 2 books and some commonly used small things in it. Ancient brushes, ink, paper, and inkstones weren't as simple as modern ones. It wasn't easy to put them in the box, so there weren't any. There were 2 books in the box, one thick and the other thin. The thick one was his medical notes. An excited look appeared on Lin Yi's face. He had finally found it. There should be news about the fire spirit's fruit in the medical notes. Their goal this time was Zhang Liju's medical notes, and now that they had found it, how could Lin Yi not be excited? Xiao, there was finally hope. Lin Yi couldn't help but want to jump up and shout, "Long live the old man." Even someone as patient as Lin Yi couldn't help but tremble with excitement. But in order not to reveal too much of his emotions, he held it in for now. The thin one, on the other hand, made Lin Yi pause. Notes of a refiner? What was this? At that moment, Elder Yu saw the 2 books in Lin Yi's hands, and he reached out to grab them. Elder Yu was an Earth class, but Lin Yi's reaction speed was faster than his, and Lin Yi had been paying attention to Elder Yu's movements. This was an extremely important book to him. How could he let Elder Yu take it away? What? You want to take it? I'll make a copy and give it to you naturally, Lin Yi said faintly. What's the other one in your hands? Let me see. Elder Yu, on the other hand, didn't care about the medical notes anymore. His attention was on the notes that Lin Yi was injured in. The medical notes were just something that Elder Yu could do without. House Yu only hoped to find something related to alchemy from it, but with the refiner's notes, the medical notes weren't that important anymore. As for the medical stuff, Elder Yu and House Yu didn't really care about it. It's some refiner's notes. It's not something you want. What are you looking at? Lin Yi didn't have the intention to give the notes to Elder Yu at all. In fact, Lin Yi was shocked when he saw the book. Elder Yu had explained so much about the strengths and advantages of a refiner, and Lin Yi was drooling over it. Now that he saw this notes, how could Lin Yi not take it for himself? If Lin Yi didn't take it for himself, he'd be an idiot. Elder Yu wanted to leave, but that was impossible. 1 was robbing, 2 was robbing. At most, he'd just fight them head on. Elder Yu took in a cold breath. He didn't think that it really was the refiner's notes. Elder Yu's plan was simple. After entering the tomb, he would use the qi gathering pill and the medical notes as a cover to confuse these people, then secretly find the notes and put it in his pocket. Elder Yu thought that it wouldn't be a problem for an Earth class like him, but after entering the tomb, he realized that the danger level was beyond his imagination. He felt like he was being led by the nose by Lin Yi. These things were all found by Lin Yi. It was too difficult for him to find them himself. Elder Yu underestimated the traps in the tomb, overestimating the power that an Earth class like him could unleash in the tomb. This made him regret it. If he knew this would happen, he would have told Lin Yi everything when he asked. He was still hiding it, but now he found it and didn't want to give it to him. He couldn't do anything about it. Who asked him to not ask for it? Elder Yu resisted the urge to rush over and snatch it. This was the tomb. Fighting Lin Yi wouldn't do him any good. If he wanted to leave the tomb smoothly, he might need Lin Yi's help. If he injured or killed Lin Yi, he wouldn't be able to leave. Secondly, Elder Yu's injuries weren't healed yet. If he attacked now, he might not be able to kill Lin Yi. Instead, he might get killed by Lin Yi. That wouldn't be worth it. And so, Elder Yu held back his anger and looked at Lin Yi. "Kid, how about I make a deal with you?" "What deal?" Lin Yi paused. He didn't know what kind of stupid idea Elder Yu was going to come up with. "That medical notes, I don't want it anymore. You can have it. But this personal notes you have, how about you give it to me?" Elder Yu said, "Just take it as an exchange for my medical notes." Chapter 1391. Elder Yu, can you not say such stupid things? What use do I have for medical notes? I'll just copy it. It's the same. There's no difference. As for the notes, you didn't say you wanted it. Why should I give it to you? Lin Yi looked at Elder Yu with disdain. "Male thief, don't force me." Elder Yu gritted his teeth as he looked at Lin Yi. "What did I force you to do? I asked you before. You came here to rob the tomb for these two things. I can give them to you. Are you going back on your word?" Lin Yi mimicked Elder Yu's tone. "Senior, don't force me. You dash." Elder Yu's mouth was wide open as he stared at Lin Yi, but he didn't have any temper. "Me what?" Lin Yi looked at Elder Yu faintly. "I'll keep this medical notes with me first. I'll give it to you when we get out, in case you run away after taking it and don't give it to me." "Do what you want." Elder Yu took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in his heart. He decided not to bother with Lin Yi for now. After he recovered and left the tomb, he'd kill Lin Yi and take all the good stuff from Lin Yi. Thinking about it, he'd take the risk of getting heavily injured by Lin Yi's explosion and take the chi-gathering pill, medical notes, and personal notes from Lin Yi. Even if he'd be heavily injured, Lin Yi would be heavily injured or even dead. He'd still be able to take all the pills and go back to House Yu to recover. His contribution and rewards would be limitless. From Elder Yu's point of view, as long as he could get one chi-gathering pill, the medical notes, and the personal notes to the hidden House Yu, it would be a huge contribution. If he could find even one of them, it would be a worthwhile trip, let alone all three. And if he secretly kept one chi-gathering pill and some other pills, House Yu wouldn't know. When he broke through to Sky Class, all the humiliation he received today would be nothing. With that thought, Elder Yu made up his mind. "Male thief, only took these things?" Old Hay looked at Lin Yi confused. He didn't understand why Lin Yi and Elder Yu were at loggerheads. There were so many good things in this tomb. Why would Lin Yi want those medical notes and personal notes? He had never heard of the couple needing these things in the past. However, this wasn't something that Lao He could handle. Ever since he knew that Lin Yi was a mystic class master, Lao He didn't dare to act rashly. "I'm not interested in other things for the time being." Lin Yi said faintly, "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Mind your own business." Old Black was stunned for a moment. Then he nodded and laughed bitterly in his heart. "What a cheap mouth of mine. What nonsense did I ask?" It was obvious that Lin Yi didn't want to say anymore. These things didn't have much to do with him anymore. Being able to keep his life was Old Hay's greatest fortune. He thought about Old Kung, Old Hao, and James who came with him. They were all dead. He killed two of them, and one of them was eaten by a monster. After this mission, Old Hay probably wouldn't be able to stay in the business anymore. Killing Old Hao was one thing, since he was a traitor, but Old King's death was too unjust. It would be fine if no one knew about this, but the couple and the Flying Sparrow girl all knew about it, and he couldn't stop them from talking about it. This time, Old Hay had to think about changing professions. If that's the case, Then let's find a way out. Xiaoka didn't want to stay in this tomb any longer. The coffin room. Are we still going? I don't want to go. There's nothing else to take. It's dangerous. Let's just get out of here. Old Hay shook his head. He didn't want to cause any more trouble. After all, the things I want are all on the male thief. Naturally, I won't go looking for death. Elder Yu himmed coldly. One of his eyes was gone, and he was depressed. Then let's find an exit. We can't go back to the previous exit. Lin Yi's goal had been achieved, so it didn't matter anymore. In actuality, Lin Yi still wanted to go to the main tomb to take a look. After all, old Lin said that Zhang Liju seemed to have the ability to find treasures and elixirs. This ability might have come from some kind of treasure, but Lin Yi hadn't seen anything like that on the way here. Jiao Lao was very sensitive to treasures, and if there really was something there, Jiao Lao would have warned him, but it didn't seem like that was the case. Where's the exit? Xiaoka smiled bitterly. Right now, we can only follow this path and see what's in front of us. The group nodded, and after leaving the stone room, they continued walking. This time, there weren't any doors on the walls. It seemed like there were only 4 stone rooms here, and Zhang Liju's wealth wasn't that rich after all. But it was no wonder. After all, someone like Zhang Liju didn't care about money or fame, or else he wouldn't be alone his whole life without a wife or concubine. If he wanted to enjoy life, he would have had a bunch of them already and wouldn't have brought these things into the tomb. After about 300 to 400 meters, they reached the end of the passageway. From the looks of it, the underground palace wasn't complicated at all, and all the complicated paths were concentrated at the entrance. What appeared in front of everyone were 2 stone doors. The 2 stone doors were very similar, but they were slightly different. On each stone door, there were different patterns carved. In the middle of each stone door, there was something similar to a jigsaw puzzle, like the ones in Huarong Dao's games. Where is this? Why are there 2 doors? Elder Yu saw the scene and couldn't help but ask. Elder Yu, I'm afraid this is the legendary life door and death door. Old Hei's face was solemn, but there was a hint of joy in his voice. According to past experience, the life door will allow us to leave the tomb smoothly, and the death door will lead us to the coffin of the deceased, and in the legends, it will be buried with the deceased forever. Then what are we waiting for? I'll go through the life door. I'll go through the death door. Elder Yu said impatiently. Hurry up and open the life door. We're leaving. Elder Yu, this life door and death door. Actually, I don't know which one is the life door and which one is the death door. Old Hay smiled bitterly. You're the one who doesn't know. Naturally, no one would go through the death door in this tomb, but in some simple tombs, there might be treasures in the death door. Chapter 1392. Chapter 1390, Robbery, Part 1. You don't know? What do you mean? Can't we just open them up and see? Elder Yu frowned. Elder Yu, there's no difference between the life door and death door, but the places they lead to are different. One leads to the outside of the tomb, the other to the coffin. One leads to life, one leads to death. If you go the wrong way, you won't be able to come back. Old Hay smiled bitterly. Is that so? Elder Yu paused. Then what are you waiting for? Go solve it. Well, solving it requires research. Old Hay turned to Xiaoka and Lin Yi awkwardly. Male thief, flying sparrow, what do you two think? That was just my side of the story. It's hard to say whether or not this is the life door and death door. This should be the life door and death door. Xiaoka looked at the 2 doors in front of her and sighed. We need to determine which one is the life door and which one is the death door. How do we determine? These 2 doors look the same? Old Hay nodded. I'm guessing that the key lies in the 2 puzzles on the doors. These 2 puzzles are 2 paintings, and the different paintings represent life or death. Xiaoka guessed. So you mean that after we put the puzzles together, we'll know which is the life door and which is the death door? Old Hay asked. In theory, yes, but I think that the mechanism to open the doors is the 2 puzzles as well. I can't guarantee that there won't be any danger when we put the puzzles on top of it. There's no order to the puzzles, Xiaoka said. Xiaoka said, if it's done in a certain order, then if we break the order, it'll bring serious consequences. We might cause unexpected trouble, or we might destroy the mechanism forever. That's serious? Old Hay didn't quite agree with Xiaoka's words, But in this tomb, anything could happen. It didn't make sense, and it scared him. Perhaps I'm just guessing, Xiaoka said. Then what should we do now? Old Hay frowned as he stared at the two doors. First, think of a way to write down these two pictures and then put them together on a piece of paper. We'll figure out which one is the life door and which one is the death door, and then we'll think of something else, Xiaoka said after a sigh. All right, let's do that. Old Hay felt that Xiaoka's method was more dependable. Draw the two pictures on the paper first and figure out what they meant. That way, it would be easier to determine if the door was the life or death door. Elder Yu didn't understand this, so he didn't give any suggestions. After hearing Xiaoka's words, he knew how dangerous this trap was, so he kept his mouth shut. He was an Earth class, almost invincible in the outside world, but in this tomb he was so scared that he didn't even dare to breathe, and he kept getting injured. It was frustrating, but at the same time, he didn't dare rush Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't care about Xiaoka and Old Hay sitting cross-legged. This time, he didn't practice, but took out Zhang Liju's medical notes and started flipping through them. Lin Yi wasn't sure if he could beat Elder Yu, or if Elder Yu would have the patience to let him make a copy of the medical notes. There were a few hundred pages, and it wasn't something that could be done in a short amount of time. Even making a copy would take some time, and with Elder Yu's impatient personality, Lin Yi had to give it some leeway. He had to be prepared. He had made up his mind to fight for his life. But if he could find the fruit in the book, what was the point of fighting for it? Seeing that Lin Yi was flipping through Zhang Liju's medical notes, Elder Yu paused. He didn't think that Lin Yi had the ability to understand this medical notes, but he couldn't say anything to Lin Yi either. He just humphed and started healing himself. In Lin Yi's hands was Zhang Liju's medical notes, similar to old Lin's. It mainly recorded the process and methods he used to save people, including prescriptions, medicine making, medicine collection, and so on. There were also some records about the Fushi-9 needles. Of course, Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to look at these things. He was curious about the Fushi-9 needles, but he had to look for the fruit first. The medical notes didn't have a table of contents, only dates and numbers, so Lin Yi couldn't search for it. He could only flip through the pages one by one. Lin Yi's eyesight was amazing, and with Xiaoka and Old Hay's weak light, he could read the words on the medical notes. Ling Shan and Yu Qian couldn't help, so they just sat beside Lin Yi and practiced. General Wei Wu, on the other hand, laid quietly on the side, as if everything here had nothing to do with it. Time passed, second by second, and the tomb was silent. Only Xiaoka and Old Hay could be heard occasionally, and they were either surprised or cheering. They were experienced tomb robbers, but they weren't good at puzzles like this. The two of them had already used the paper they brought with them to draw the puzzle pieces on the stone door, and made them into pieces of the same size, planning to restore them. Song's Han, on the other hand, wasn't as peaceful. A Land Rover without a license plate quietly stopped in front of a bank, and if someone looked closely, they would see that the front and back of the Rover had traces of paint patching. If Xiao Xiao were still alive, she would see that the repair marks on the Rover were exactly the same as her own. Not long after, the Land Rover's door quietly opened, and a man in black with a hood walked out. This person's figure was very well proportioned, and he looked very familiar. After he got out of the car, he went straight into the bank without saying a word. Suddenly, a masked man in black broke into the bank, causing the customers in the bank to be startled and cry out in alarm. However, the masked man in black didn't seem to hear them at all. He ignored the screams of these customers and walked directly to the front of the bank's business counter. He swung his fist and smashed the glass of the counter window. With a loud bang, the thick glass of the bank window was easily broken by this person. With just one jump, the black-clothed masked man jumped into the bank counter. An ear-piercing alarm sounded, but the robber didn't seem to hear it at all. A dash! The bank employees who were doing business behind the counter all screamed. Chapter 1393. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, he was alone like a lone hero. He didn't even say a word and just barged in. The masked man in black didn't say a word. He took out a super large woven silk bag from his waist and started to put money into it from under the counter. He was self-reliant, unlike the other robbers who took hostages and asked the teller for help. He didn't say any harsh words either. It was as if he didn't care about the people around him at all, treating them like air. While everyone was stunned, almost in an instant, all the money under the counter went into the masked man's woven silk bag. The next moment, the masked man in black turned around and walked to the safe at the back. The money under the counter was limited, but the safe stored all the cash flow of the bank for a day. But what was surprising was that the masked man in black didn't ask for the safe's password and key. Instead, he just walked straight to the safe. The black-clothed masked man forcefully pulled the safe's door open. The banknotes inside once again entered the black-clothed masked man's knitted silk bag. If one bag wasn't enough, he took out another one. The way he put the money in was so fast that it was as if he had done it thousands of times. After doing all this, the masked man jumped out of the bank's counter. During this time, he didn't even say a word. Everyone present looked at this uninvited guest in fear. The whole scene happened in just a few minutes. A few of the bank's security guards reacted at this time. A few of them held their batons and looked at the silent lone hero with trepidation. "Don't move. Put down the money in your hands. We've already called the police. The police will be here soon." The security captain also felt a little guilty in his heart. This robber was too strange. He had never heard of such a robbery before. The masked man turned a deaf ear to the security captain's words and walked over. When the security captain saw that the robber wasn't listening, he clenched his teeth and waved his baton. "Everyone, stop him together. Stall for time. The police will be here soon." Bang! Before the security captain could finish his words, the black-clothed masked man punched the security captain in the chest, causing him to fly out and hit the wall of the bank, making a loud sound. Looking at the security captain's chest, the black-clothed masked man had smashed his sternum. When he fell from the wall, he was gasping for air. Obviously, he was seriously injured. With the example of the security captain, the other security guards naturally did not dare to act rashly. They were all shocked in their hearts. What kind of person was this? Not only did he smash the glass of the counter and the safe with his bare hands, but he could also send a person flying with a casual punch and shatter his sternum. How could an ordinary person do that? The masked man in black didn't care what these people thought. The next moment, he turned around and walked out of the jewelry store. Carrying the woven silk bag, he got on the unlicensed Land Rover parked at the entrance of the jewelry store. After the masked man in black got on the car, the Land Rover started the engine and drove away. All that was left were the alarms blaring in the bank, the terrified bank employees, and the customers. The Land Rover didn't escape directly. Instead, after a few rounds in the city, it stopped in front of a jewelry store, and the masked man in black did the same thing. He directly rushed into the jewelry store and began to plunder the gold, silver, jewelry, and cash. The masked man's methods were still very violent. He directly smashed the counter, the safe, and the cash register. He was completely self-reliant. He didn't need anyone's help, and he didn't say a word. And the security guards who rushed up to stop him were also shocked after one of them was sent flying by the masked man in black. Under the extreme helplessness and sadness of the jewelry store owner and the security guards, the masked man in black robbed everything in the jewelry store and left. The Land Rover turned a few more times and arrived at a secluded place. Then, another man got out of the car. This man took out a car plate and got on the Land Rover. The car plate number was TT000. The Land Rover didn't go around the city anymore after changing the license plate. Instead, it went straight to the outskirts and, after a few turns, it stopped in front of a small farm. On the surface, it looked like a farm, but in reality, Jiang Wen had bought this place and turned it into another base for him. For someone as rich as Jiang Wen, buying this place wasn't hard at all. Plus, Jiang Wen was doing this for the firewolves, so naturally, the money he spent on this place would be deducted from his earnings. Master One, everything went smoothly. 01's robbing speed was really fast. I was only thinking of robbing a silver shop, but his speed was completely out of my expectations. He finished it in less than 5 minutes, so I decided to rob a jewelry store on my own. Master One, you won't blame me for being a busybody, will you? The one speaking was the man who had gotten out of the car and changed the license plate. He was called Big Scorpion, a name Jiang Wen had given him. Little Scorpion was taken in as the scapegoat, and the firewolves sent another scapegoat. Jiang Wen didn't remember his original name, but he named him Big Scorpion. It wasn't hard for the firewolves to arrange for someone like this. Although it would require quite a bit of money to settle down, it was nothing compared to the benefits that Jiang Wen could bring to the firewolves. How can I blame you for making a profit? Jiang Wen laughed. It seems like the professor's experiment was a success. You got quite a bit on your first try. How much did you get this time? This time, we went to a bigger silver shop in the business district. There's a lot of cash flow there and some foreign currency. The jewelry store is a big one as well, so it should be quite a bit. Big Scorpion didn't know how much money they got, but he had already sent someone to count it. Master Wen, I've already sent someone to count it. I think we'll get the exact numbers soon. Very good. Jiang Wen nodded. Bring 01 to the professor and let him replenish his energy and hypnotize himself. We'll do it again when this blows over. Yes. Big Scorpion nodded and left. Jiang Wen, on the other hand, started laughing happily. I'm really a genius. Not only did I earn money from this, but I can also frame Lin Yi with one stone. Haha, Lin Yi, you won't be able to defend yourself this time. Chapter 1394. Professor Ian had always been engaged in the research of the human body's potential, and behind the Fire Wolf Gang, there was also a large scientific research organization supporting them. Where this organization came from, no one knew. Even Professor Ian himself did not know. Only the leader of the Fire Wolf Gang knew the details. But this wasn't what Jiang Wen and the professor cared about. As long as the Firewolves cooperated, their plan would go smoothly. The professor would be able to realize his experiments, and Jiang Wen would be able to earn money. The black-clothed man called 01 was a test subject that Jiang Wen and the professor had created. Jiang Wen had named this test subject 01. This was a code name, the first test subject. But on the other hand, 01 and Lin Yi sounded like one, and so Jiang Wen had thought that 01 was Lin Yi. In actuality, 01 looked exactly the same as Lin Yi, whether it was his body or his face. He was a carbon copy of Lin Yi. The Firewolves were full of geniuses, and a genius like the professor wasn't much. There were plenty of doctors who were even better than Lin Yi. It was quite easy for them to make Lin Yi look like Lin Yi. Not only did 01 get plastic surgery, but he had also been modified by the professor's genetic modification needles. The explosive power he displayed for a certain period of time was comparable to a golden-class late-phase peak physical practitioner, but he needed a rest for a few days after that. He couldn't use it continuously, and this was something the professor was trying to overcome. Of course, this 01 no longer had his own thoughts. His brain had been modified by the Fire Wolf Gang's hypnotist and neurologist, turning him into a walking corpse that could only follow orders. The hypnotist and brain specialist had carved a series of robberies into 01's brain, allowing him to complete the robberies in different environments. The loot would be sorted according to the instructions as well. This way, other than being completely obedient, he wouldn't leak any information about Jiang Wen. Once he was captured, the police wouldn't be able to get any useful information out of him. He only knew how to rob, and he didn't know how to do anything else. He had already been manipulated, and he didn't have any thoughts. Scorpion, on the other hand, was a scapegoat. At the end of the day, this plan was basically foolproof. Even if something were to happen, it wouldn't have anything to do with Jiang Wen. This time, he didn't let 01 show his face, because that would be too obvious. It would be too obvious that he was trying to frame Lin Yi. What Jiang Wen wanted to do was to let the police suspect Lin Yi slowly, and then let 01 accidentally show his face. That way, everything would be fine. Plus, Jiang Wen was a very meticulous man. In order to achieve his goal, he'd even gotten a Land Rover and made it look exactly like Lin Yi's car. He'd even made a fake car plate, all in order to make people realize that Lin Yi was the culprit behind all of this. Of course, when the police locked on a Lin Yi, Jiang Wen's next step would be to get rid of 01, making Lin Yi disappear from this world. That way, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to defend himself. Jiang Wen believed that even if Lin Yi could get away with it, he'd still lose a layer of skin. Seeing Lin Yi in trouble made Jiang Wen very happy. He'd always seen Lin Yi as a stumbling block, and now that he had the chance to kill Lin Yi, how could he not be excited? Soon, the number of robberies came out, and Scorpion ran over excitedly. Master One, the number is out. How much? Jiang Wen asked. He didn't have much confidence in this. After all, this was his first test. If he wanted to rob in the future, he'd have to scout the place first, and only rob when he had enough cash. The bank's foreign currency, the gold shop's cash, and the jewelry. The total is around 30 million. Scorpion said. That's a lot. Jiang Wen paused, not expecting robberies to be this profitable. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. Good, very good. There's no need to touch the gold and silver jewelry. Just hand it over to the Firewolf gang. They have professionals under them who can refine them into other jewelry and sell them off. There won't be any problems. Hand over the new banknotes as well. We will only keep the old banknotes. Yes. Scorpion nodded and went to work. Jiang Wen, on the other hand, was very happy. His plan wasn't bad at all. A simple business that didn't cost anything, and he'd done it so well. Meng Yao, why don't you like me? Songshan Police Station. Lu Wangli, on the other hand, was sitting in the meeting room with a serious face. Lingshan wasn't here, so he was in charge of the team's work. What he didn't expect was that 2 robberies happened in one day. One was a bank robbery, and the other was a jewelry shop robbery. The 2 incidents happened one after the other. From the modus operandi and the surveillance footage obtained from the crime scene, these 2 cases were committed by the same person. The method of committing the crime was exactly the same. It was a very violent and arbitrary method of opening the safe and robbing it. The time of committing the crime was very short. Before the police arrived at the scene, the suspect had already fled quickly. Moreover, the location of the suspect's parking was very artistic. He avoided the surveillance video at the bank's entrance and the camera on the bank's gate control road. He parked the car in a blind spot, making it impossible to determine which car he was driving. But, according to the witness, the suspect's car should be a Land Rover, but the witness didn't see the model or the license plate clearly. He didn't know anything about it. Lingshan's absence increased the pressure on Lu Wangli. He was the temporary vice captain and the squadron leader of the 1st platoon. Without Lingshan, naturally, he would be the leader. Looking at the case file, Lu Wangli was really angry. This criminal suspect was a bit too arrogant. He actually dared to commit 2 crimes in a row. This was simply looking down on others. It was really arrogant. Chapter 1395. Only a practitioner will be able to break through the glass of a bank's counter and open a safe with brute force. And that wasn't something an ordinary person could do. It had to be a practitioner at the golden class or higher, and he'd have to discuss it with Yang Huaijuan if that was really the case. Of course, Lin Yi, who was in the tomb, didn't know that he had robbed twice already. Lingshan, on the other hand, didn't know what was going on outside. Everyone was waiting for Old He and Xiaoke to finish studying the pictures on the door and the door of death. Lin Yi flipped through Zhang Liju's medical notes seriously. He didn't think much of it at first, but after a few pages, he couldn't help but feel amazed. Zhang Liju's medical thoughts, treatment plans, and prescriptions always made Lin Yi's eyes light up. This Zhang Liju really was a skilled man. If he were still alive, his medical skills might not be any weaker than his old man's, perhaps even surpassing his. But while Lin Yi was very interested in the contents of the medical notes, he still focused on finding the news of the fire spirit's fruit. Luckily, Zhang Liju wasn't a person who liked to read words. His notes were all written in the vernacular, and he probably wrote it down like a diary for himself. He didn't want to show it to others, and it saved Lin Yi a lot of trouble. Otherwise, just thinking about the meaning of the words would take a lot of time. In order to save time, Lin Yi quickly flipped through the pages, searching for anything related to the fire spirit's fruit. Finally, halfway through the notes, Lin Yi found information about the fire spirit's fruit. Lin Yi took a deep breath and started reading attentively. The main point of this chapter was that he met a friend who was poisoned by the cold, and after all the medicine was ineffective, Zhang Liju found out a huge piece of news from one of the books. In the extreme cold of the north, there was a snow mountain, and on top of the snow, there was a fire spirit's tree. The fruit on the tree would ripen once every 30 years, and it had the ability to suppress the cold. In the extreme cold of the snow mountain, the trees that could survive naturally had the ability to resist the cold, and it made sense that the fruit on the tree would have this effect. If it were a normal person, perhaps Zhang Liju wouldn't take the risk to go to the extreme cold of the north to find the fruit, but this friend of his was very close to him, and he was like a teacher and a friend. This friend was Zhang Liju's elixir refinement teacher. It could be said that Zhang Liju's elixir refinement skills were taught by this friend. The reason why this person's body was poisoned was because of the process of elixir refinement, and so Zhang Liju didn't waste too much time. He just packed his stuff and went to the extreme north. At the end of the medical notes, it was about the process of going to the extreme north. Lenny didn't read it too detailedly. After all, things are different now. In the past, many cities weren't developed, and it was just a piece of barren land. There weren't any trains, cars, or airplanes, and they could only move on foot or on horseback. It was a tough journey, but now it wasn't that difficult anymore. But what made Lenny curious was that Zhang Liju mentioned the words "it" and "me" many times in the medical notes. At first, Lenny thought that Zhang Liju had written the wrong word, and that it was referring to his friend who was poisoned, but the words at the end were all "it." Clearly, it was an animal. This made Lin puzzled. Who did Zhang Liju go with? And this "it" looked like an animal, but it seemed to be very intelligent. It could help Zhang Liju find the fire spirit's tree. And Zhang Liju, with its help, found the fire spirit's tree and successfully plucked the fire spirit's fruit and went on his way back. In the entire diary, there was no mention of the location of the fire spirit's tree in the snowy mountains. It only said that it helped him find it, but the location of the snowy mountains was marked on the meridian map, and it saved Lin a lot of trouble. With the general location of the fire spirit's fruit, Lin breathed out in relief. As long as he knew the location of the snowy mountains, there was hope that he could find the fruit. It was just a matter of time, but the "it" in the medical notes piqued Lin Yi's interest. What exactly was this "it"? According to old Lin, Zhang Liju had a magical item with him that could help him find treasures and elixirs quickly. Now, it seemed that this was the so-called magical item, but this magical item was clearly a living thing, not an inanimate object. Could it be something similar to General Weiwu? Lin Yi's eyes landed on General Weiwu. Some animals had a very sensitive sense of smell, and Lin Yi knew that. But if it really was an animal, then it would have turned into dust along with Zhang Liju. After so many years, Lin Yi shook his head. It seemed that the dream of finding this magical item was over, and he could only rely on himself to find the fire spirit's fruit. No, Lin Yi shook his head abruptly. The monster he saw in the tomb was probably a spirit beast guarding the tomb. Didn't that mean that it had been here for thousands of years? If the "it" mentioned in Zhang Liju's medical notes was also a spirit beast, then there was a high chance that it wasn't dead. From the medical notes, it had a very good relationship with Zhang Liju, and so according to Lin Yi's judgment, it was very likely that it was in the death door together with Zhang Liju's coffin. With this possibility in mind, Lin Yi couldn't help but look at the two doors not far away, and he fell in a deep thought. This spirit beast, from Zhang Liju's records, didn't have any offensive capabilities, but had a very sensitive sense of smell towards treasures. Even so, it was still a very powerful existence, and with Elder Yu's greedy personality, if he knew about it, he would definitely try to rob it. As for Lin Yi, he might have to come back himself. But although Lin Yi had Lu Bujia's information and the jade, he wasn't a tomb raider, so he was naturally at a disadvantage. If Lin Yi's eyes landed on Xiaoke, if he could bring Xiaoke along, it would be much easier. Chapter 1396. If Xiaoke really did find a way to open the door, he'd talk about it later. Lin Yi thought about it and continued flipping through the medical notes in his hands. The next page was about the process of giving the fruit to the friend. Lin Yi was just reading the process and method, But when his eyes landed on a line of words, he was shocked. Lin Yi's eyes landed on the last line. The fire spirit's fruit that was stored in the medicine box had already withered, and Li Ju, on the other hand, had given it to his friend as a test, but there was no effect at all. Li Ju was confused, and after looking through a lot of documents, he finally found a reason. The fruit was extremely difficult to preserve. It had the fire element, and after leaving the tree, it would dissipate very easily. It was best to consume it on the spot. Otherwise, the effect would be greatly reduced or even completely lost. Li Ju, on the other hand, had been on the road for more than half a year. It was normal for the fruit to lose its effect. Zhang Li Ju could only smile bitterly after reading the record, but his friend's sickness had to be treated. Zhang Li Ju went through a lot of information and finally found one of the ways to preserve the fruit, which was to use a box made from Wanyankin wood. But Wanyankin wood was something that was hard to come by. Even Zhang Li Ju had only heard of it, and he didn't know how to find it. In the end, Zhang Li Ju had no choice but to bring his friend along and head to the extreme north again. But the final result was good. After his friend consumed the fire spirit's fruit, he suppressed the cold poison in his body and neutralized it. But because of this, there were some side effects. For example, his body became weak and he could no longer practice alchemy, but Lin Yi didn't care about that. Nothing was more important than saving Xiao Xiao's life. Even if Xiao Xiao's body was weak, Lin Yi would find a way to recover. As long as she was alive, there was hope. There wasn't anything special about consuming the fruit. It was just eating it, and there wasn't anything to take note of. It only said that after consuming it, the body would be hot and cold, and Li Ju had to use his own body heat to keep his friend warm. It was at this moment that Lin Yi finally realized that Zhang Li Ju's friend was a girl. An evil thought popped up in Lin Yi's mind. He memorized the general location of the snow mountain in his mind and started searching for information about it in the medical notes. With a destination in mind, it was much easier to find. Although the process of Li Ju's discovery wasn't in the notes, the description of it would occasionally appear in the notes. With all the information in the notes, Lin Yi finally found the information he was looking for. Its name was Sky Thunder Pig, and its appearance was that of a small pig. In the records, it was called Sky Thunder Pig or Treasure Pig. This was a spirit beast with a very low level, but it could continue to level up. Although it wasn't even a golden rank when it was born, it could gradually level up to golden rank or even mystic rank or even higher with the help of treasures. The main ability of Skybolt Pig was treasure hunting. It could find all sorts of treasures and elixirs in the vast lands and mountains. It had a very sharp sense for these kinds of things, and Li Ju had relied on Skybolt Pig to find so many elixirs in his life. Looking at these records, Lin Yi felt that this little guy was quite interesting. If it really was in Li Ju's tomb, then Lin Yi would be lucky. 2 days had passed since Lin Yi finished reading the records, and Xiaoke and Old He had made substantial progress as well. The two of them had finally restored the 2 paintings to their original state, and it could be considered as a success. Done, it's done. Xiaoke sighed in relief after putting the last piece of paper in place. Elder Yu opened his eyes as well and walked over. Lin Yi put away his medical notes and walked over as well. Lin Yi had pretty much read everything he wanted. Other than the Fushi 9 needles, Lin Yi knew everything he wanted to know. Did you find out which is the door of life and which is the door of death? Elder Yu asked hurriedly. He had been out for too long, and although he didn't show his face in the common world, he was still afraid that people would notice him. The Noble House Council wasn't a joke, and Elder Yu was very cautious about it. He wanted to get out as soon as possible and return to the Hidden House Yu. I got the general idea. Xiaoke nodded. Of these 2 paintings, one represents the reincarnation of the soul, and the other represents escaping to the heavens. What do you mean? Elder Yu didn't understand these technical terms. It's clear. Reincarnation is for the dead, allowing the soul of the dead to reincarnate smoothly. There are similar paintings in many tombs, and escaping to the sky should be the door of life. It means that we can still get out after coming here, Xiaoke explained simply. I see. So escaping to the sky is the door of life? Which one is it, and how do we open it? Elder Yu nodded. It's the one on the left. In theory, as long as the picture on the door is the same as the one on the ground, the mechanism on the door will activate and we'll be able to get out. Xiaoka said, but I don't know what the order of the picture is. I think that the door of life doesn't have an order, but the door of death does. Old Hay gave his opinion. Oh, what do you mean? Elder Yu asked. Look on the gate of death, on the painting of soul reincarnation. Everyone is doing certain things in an orderly manner. They are following a prescribed order and are doing certain things step by step. Old Hay pointed at the picture on the ground and said, the other picture, Escape to Heaven, is a picture of a group of people running like a swarm of bees. There's no order to speak of. Yes. In other words, the picture on the death door already hinted that we have to follow the rules and procedures to open the stone door, but the door of life is different. As long as the picture is right, we can open it. Xiaoka nodded and looked at Old Hay approvingly. This guy wasn't useless, after all. He was still useful in critical moments. Chapter 1397. That's what I'm guessing, but I'm not sure if it'll work or not. Old Hay was hesitated. After all, he wasn't 100% sure. If he was wrong, the consequences would be dire. Then can we get out or not? Elder Yu was panicking. Can't we just try? Now, you guys need to put the life gate together. That's... Old Hay paused and smiled bitterly. Elder Yu, this puzzle has a certain degree of danger. We can't just do it recklessly, or the consequences will be dire. Dire? Elder Yu frowned, but didn't get angry. Then what do? We can only test it. But who's going to test it first? Old Hay didn't say directly, but he looked at Elder Yu. Elder Yu was the strongest here, and of course, these dangerous things should be done by him. But Elder Yu was a coward, so even if Old Hay thought that way, he didn't dare say it out loud. Elder Yu, naturally, knew what Old Hay was thinking, but he didn't seem embarrassed at all. He coughed and looked at Lin. Male thief, you've already gotten so much. How can you not do something? Why don't you give me the notes and I'll go try? Sure, go try it. I'll lend you a copy after we get out. Lin Yi said after some thought. Lin Yi wouldn't give it to Elder Yu. Why would Lin Yi give it away when he already had it? According to what Elder Yu said, there are so many benefits to being a refiner. How could Lin Yi just give it away like that? Plus, Zhang Liju's notes mentioned that being a refiner was a very powerful vocation. Naturally, Lin Yi couldn't give it up. But giving Elder Yu a copy was doable, and if Elder Yu wanted to copy the notes, he'd have to give Lin Yi a copy of Zhang Liju's medical notes. The two were mutually exclusive, and if Elder Yu went back on his word, Lin Yi wouldn't get anything. I'll give it to you. Why can't you give it to me? You want me to test it? Do you think I'm an idiot? Elder Yu sighed. Young thief, don't play tricks. Hurry and go open the door. Why should I give it to you? Lin Yi said faintly, we agreed that you'd give it to me, but I didn't say I had to give it to you. Since you don't want it, I'll give it a try. Elder Yu sneered. Elder Yu said. Lin Yi said, Elder Yu, Elder Yu, Elder Yu, Elder Yu said. Lin Yi walked in front of the two doors and touched the puzzle piece on the life door, intending to move it. After a while, the jade on his chest didn't send out any warning signals. It seemed like it was just as Old Hay and Xiaoka had analyzed. The life door wasn't dangerous, and the puzzle pieces could be moved randomly as well. As long as the final picture matched with the one to open the door, it'd be fine. Lin, you looking, Lin? He moved the life door's jigsaw puzzle a couple of times, and nothing unusual happened. There was no danger. Fu Dash, seeing how easily Lin Yi did it, everyone let out a breath of relief. Elder Hay was grateful to Lin Yi. In the tomb, if it weren't for Lin Yi, he would have been abandoned a few times. It wasn't easy for him to make it this far. And so, Elder Hay praised, you're the best, you're brave. Let's do it. Lin Yi didn't say much, turning around and leaving the door. Lin Yi wasn't good at this, and since Xiaoka and Old Hay did it, he'd leave it to them. Although there was already an example of the pattern on the ground, it was not an easy task to put the same pattern on the stone door. There were a lot of pieces, close to 100 pieces, otherwise Xiaoka and Old Hay wouldn't have wasted so much time. Hidden House Pai Jiaka, and Pai Jishan were discussing something in a secret room. You heard it. That Air Gooden isn't a practitioner, but he used some special technique to increase his strength. And after using his strength, he's no different from a normal person? Pai Jiaka asked solemnly. Yes, father. Jishan nodded. Plus, according to my observations, Gooden was weaker than a normal person after using all his strength. He was even injured, lying on the bed, unable to move. Jishan said, This person should be safe now. What do you think? Pai Jiaka nodded. Father, I think that we, House Pai, have lost 3 practitioners to Lin Yi and his followers. We can't just let this go like this, otherwise the other noble houses will think that we're weak. Jishan thought of revenge after knowing that Gooden wasn't a practitioner. Naturally, we can't just let this go. But as for what other people think, what does that have to do with us? Pai Jiaka waved his hand. Jishan, you're still too young and impetuous. You're a good person, but you can't escape the word impetuous. Don't care about what other people think. So what if they laugh at us? House Pai won't lose anything. Yes, father, you're right. Jishan panicked, quickly admitting his mistake. Father, I've learned my lesson. I was too concerned about my face. Yes. Remember, if a hidden aristocratic family wants to stand tall and not fall, or even take another step forward, they must learn to be thick-skinned and black-hearted. We don't care what others think of us. The key is how we deal with them. Jiaka said, although, like you said, that Air Gooden might just be a normal person without any strength, using a secret art to increase his strength. But he was able to kill Jin Wudi. This is something we have to take seriously. If we had acted rashly and tried to avenge the 2 Pai masters, it would be our House Pai who died. That's the case now, too. We thought that Air Gooden couldn't do it anymore. And what if he got stronger again? And that Lin Yi behind him. Who knows where he came from? We can hate people like that, but we can't go and mess with them ourselves. Aren't there some impatient people? Let them take revenge for us. Chapter 1398. That's right. Hidden House Zhao and Common House Yu. Don't they all have grudges with Linny? Let the news out and tell them to find Linny. We don't need to do anything, just watch. Jiaka said, All right, father. I'll go spread the news now. Jishan nodded. As the heir of House Pai, he was quite smart and scheming, but sometimes he was a bit impulsive. It seemed like he needed to get rid of that habit. House Pai had a lot of channels to spread the news, so it didn't take long for all the noble houses that had a grudge against Lin Yi to receive the news, including Zhao Qibing. He was the first to receive the news. Uncle Zhu Yaowang, what do you think of this news? Qibing was scared out of his wits by Gooden and hadn't recovered from the shock yet. He didn't know if this news was real or fake. That's hard to say. This kind of news can be fake and real at the same time. Without confirming it personally, who would know? Yaowang waved his hand, but I'm not good at analyzing things like this. I'm just saying, I don't think this news is fake. It's 80% true. Uncle Zhu said, this news, although they didn't say where it came from, but it came from House Pai's information channels. Anyone with eyes would know that this was released by House Pai. And if it's fake, then House Pai wouldn't have it easy either. Releasing fake news to deceive people is a big taboo in the hidden houses and is strictly forbidden by the Arbitration Council. Uncle Zhu was very clear about the inner workings of the hidden houses, so Uncle Zhu pondered for a moment and said, But even if this news is true, it's just a guess. Whether or not Gooden has lost his strength is hard to say, because House Pai's information isn't that accurate. Sihua said, I think House Pai is trying to get someone else to do their dirty work. This news is real, but even they don't believe it, so they're using other houses to test the waters for them. This is a typical scam. Yes, that's right. We can't be the first bird to stand out. We don't have any masters to go against him right now, so let's just ignore him for now. Qibing nodded in agreement. While they were talking, Su Jianong knocked on the door and walked in. Master Bing, an old man, came to our bar. He said he's Uncle Zhu's elder brother. He wants to see Uncle Zhu. What do you think? Uncle Zhu's big brother. Qibing paused. He didn't know why Uncle Zhu had a big brother. Yes, he claimed to be Uncle Zhu's elder brother. Su Jianong nodded and said. At this moment, Uncle Zhu was extremely excited after hearing Su Jianong's words. My big brother? Is it really my big brother? Let him in. Uncle Zhu will know if it's true or not, Qibing ordered Jianon. If this person didn't come with good intentions, there was no point in stopping him. He could still barge in. If he really was Uncle Zhu's big brother, then there was no need for Qibing to stop him. He might as well let him in. Uncle Zhu looked a little excited as he stared at the door. Not long after, Su Jianon came in with an old man. Uncle Zhu was even more excited when he saw him. His face was filled with nostalgia and excitement. Big brother, is that you? Little brother, it's me. It's been so many years. I can finally see you. The old man was excited as well. A long time ago, I was sent out by the head of the house to carry out a mission. I can't meet you privately, but big brother misses you. Then now you... Uncle Zhu's face changed when he heard that it was the head of the house who forbade him from meeting his big brother. One had to know that Zhao Qibing was there. If the head of the house didn't allow him to come and he came on his own, the consequences would be severe. Ha! Little brother, you don't know, do you? Big brother, just yesterday by chance he understood the secrets of the heavens and broke through to Earth class. I'm an Earth class early phase now. The old man said. The head of the house said that the day I break through to Earth class, I'll be able to return to the house and meet you. But I can't change the person on my mission at the last minute, so I asked the head of the house to come and see you. Otherwise, how would I know that you're here? Uncle Zhu calmed down after hearing his brother's words. Indeed, if he didn't get the news from House Zhao, how would his big brother know? However, while Uncle Zhu was happy for his big brother, he was also a little sad. His strength had dropped a lot, and he was probably only golden class now. Little brother, how's your strength now? Did you improve? The old man asked happily. Don't mention it. Uncle Zhu sighed, his face a little gloomy. It's a long story. Let me introduce you. This is Zhao Qibing, young Master Zhao, the son of the young master. I'm working for him now. Greetings, young Master Zhao. The man cupped his fists in greeting when he heard that it was the young master of House Zhao. He'd heard of the bastard Zhao Qibing before, but no matter what, he was still a man of House Zhao, and House Zhao placed a lot of importance on men, unlike girls who were used as tools for marriage. You're too courteous, Boss Zhu. Congratulations, you're in Earth class now? Zhao Qibing was actually very happy. This Boss Zhu was an Earth class. Didn't that mean that he had another Earth class by his side? He was Uncle Zhu's brother, so he would definitely take care of Uncle Zhu. Since Uncle Zhu was injured because of Lin Yi, would there be a chance? That's good, right, little brother? What did you say just now? What happened to your strength? Boss Zhu suddenly remembered that his brother's expression wasn't right. I was heavily injured in a fight earlier, and I've just recovered. But my strength dropped a lot, and I'm only at the middle phase of Golden class now. Uncle Zhu sighed. Weren't you at the early phase of Mystic class? Why? Boss Zhu's expression changed. What happened? Who did this? Tell me, I'll avenge you. It's fine. Lenny did it. You might have heard of this asterisk bro before. His follower has been in the limelight recently, and he just killed Jean Woody. Naturally, Uncle Zhu wouldn't let his big brother take the risk. Lin Yi was despicable, and Uncle Zhu hated him to the core, but his follower's strength was still there. He didn't want his big brother to take the risk. Chapter 1399. But he didn't know about Jean Woody. He was sent out on a secret mission by the head of the house, so naturally, he wasn't that well informed. All the information came from House Zhao, and there were no other channels. At this time, Elder Zhu heard Uncle Zhu say that Lin Yi's follower killed Jean Woody. He was shocked. What happened? Elder Zhu didn't hide anything and told Elder Zhu everything, including the news that House Pai had released. Elder Zhu fell into deep thought. This Lin Yi, is he that strong? That's right. This kid isn't simple, but his follower is a little weird. Should I go test him? You can't. Elder Zhu jumped and quickly stopped him. Big bro, what kind of noble house is the Hidden House Pai? They're a physical practitioner house, but in terms of overall strength, they're stronger than us Hidden House Zhao. They have a sky class, but we don't. Ever since our ancestor went to that place, there's been no news of him, and the head of the house has been stuck at Earth class late phase peak for many years. He's one of the weakest hidden houses. We can't be the ones to stand out. That's right, Elder Zhu. We need to think about this further. Qibing didn't want Elder Zhu to test Lin Yi's follower right now. Didn't they have House Yu? Let them go. It wasn't easy for Qibing to have an Earth class by his side, and he hadn't even had the chance to show off yet. If he got killed by Lin Yi's follower, it'd be a huge loss. Qibing had his own plans. His ultimate goal was to become the head of House Zhao, but from the looks of it, he was still too weak. He didn't have any helpers by his side, and he didn't have any advantage against the direct descendants of House Zhao. This was the first reason, and the second reason was that if Zhao Qibing wanted to become the heir, he had to get the approval of the current elder of House Zhao. If the elder didn't agree, even if Zhao Guangyin agreed, it was useless. But the old man had never looked favorably on this bastard. Of course, it was also because Qibing had always been mediocre, not contributing much to House Zhao. If Qibing could make a name for himself in the common world, then it wouldn't be hard for the old man to approve of him and let him enter the core group of House Zhao. But now, Uncle Zhu was completely loyal to Qibing. Qibing was someone who knew how to win people over, and he often gave his men benefits. Qibing believed that as long as he worked hard, and with Uncle Zhu's help, it wouldn't be hard to get Elder Zhu to his side. But, little brother, your strength has been reduced to this state. Big Brother Zhu looked at Big Brother Zhu with pity. Don't worry, Elder Zhu. I've already asked Yao Wang to find the medicine that can heal Uncle Zhu's injuries. Qibing said, starting to win over people's hearts. I heard that there's a pill called the Meridian Opening Pill. It can heal the damaged meridians of a practitioner. As long as you take it, Uncle Zhu's strength will recover. Master Bing, you're the son of the head of the house. That means you're my master. Just call me Elder Zhu from now on. No need to call me Elder Zhu. Elder Zhu nodded to Qibing, pleased. Thank you, Master Bing. I've heard of the Meridian Opening Pill, but it's very rare and precious. It's hard for normal people to get their hands on it. The head of the house might have a few, but he wouldn't give them to normal people like us. All right, since Elder Zhu says so, then I won't hold back. A name is just a title. I'll call you Elder Zhu, Uncle Zhu, and Elder Zhu. Qibing nodded, closing the distance between him and the two brothers. Don't worry, Elder Zhu. If I have a chance, I'll ask Grandpa for this pill to heal Elder Zhu. As long as I make a contribution to the Zhao family here, when Grandpa wants to reward me, I will bring it up immediately. Thank you very much, Master Bing. Elder Zhu was a little touched. It didn't matter if what Qibing said could come true or not. Since he said it, it showed his sincerity. He felt that his follower couldn't lose out by following Master Bing. Thank you, Master Bing. Zhu Lao was touched as well. Although Zhao Qibing said that he was going to find him some treasures to heal his wounds, he never said that he was going to ask the head of the house for the Meridian Opening Pill. If he really could get it, it wouldn't be a problem for Zhu Lao to regain his previous strength. What's there to thank? You got injured because of me. How could I mistreat you? Qibing waved his hand. We'll have our revenge on Lin Yi sooner or later, but it's fine to endure it for now. We'll see how it goes. Everyone nodded in agreement. Elder Zhu didn't stay long after meeting with Elder Zhu. He got up and prepared to leave. He had other missions to do, and he only came to visit Elder Zhu this time. In the tomb, Xiaoka put the last piece of the puzzle in its place, and with a click, the mechanism of the stone door was activated. Along with the sounds of the mechanism operating, the stone door's surroundings also began to tremble slightly. Then, after a few loud rumbling sounds, there was no more movement. All right, the mechanism should be activated, Xiaoka said after making sure that there were no other sounds behind the door. Old He took a deep breath and pushed the stone door lightly. It opened slowly without any resistance, and in front of them was a long and narrow passageway. It wasn't as wide as the previous passageway, and it didn't have the smooth stone walls either. The walls here were uneven, and everything seemed out of place. The workmanship here could only be described as shoddy. Why is this place so broken? Is there a mistake? Elder Yu looked at the scene behind the stone door, confused. There shouldn't be a mistake. This is definitely not the death door, Xiaoka said with certainty. Xiaoka said with certainty, the death door is connected to the coffin, and it's the most important place in the tomb. There's no way it would be built in such a dilapidated way. So, this should only be an exit. Since it's an exit, then it has nothing to do with the main tomb. It's understandable that it's built in a rough manner. I see, let's go then. Elder Yu nodded. He couldn't wait anymore, but as he walked, he looked at Lin Yi with a meaningful gaze. Chapter 1400. Even if he hadn't recovered to his peak strength yet, from his point of view, it was still possible for him to injure or cripple Lin Yi. Compared to the value of Lin Yi's items, a little injury was nothing. Lin Yi smiled coldly at Elder Yu's hostile stare. As expected, this old thing couldn't take it anymore and was ready to make a move on him. But Lin Yi, wasn't he thinking the same thing? After seeing the way out, they didn't let Lin Yi go first. They probably thought that this path wasn't dangerous. Old Hay and Elder Yu took the lead, and Lin Yi and the others followed behind. The path was long and narrow, and the road was uneven as well. It felt like they were walking in the deep and shallow places. Originally, they thought that they would be able to see the light once they got out of this path. However, after walking for about an hour, they still hadn't reached the end. It was as if the corridor was endless. Moreover, because the corridor wasn't straight but curved, they couldn't see the scene in front of them. After walking for another 2 hours, Elder Yu started to worry. What's going on? We still haven't reached the exit after so long. Is this the right path? It should be right? Old Hay was puzzled as well. They'd spent so much time in the tomb, but the exit and the entrance were obviously different paths. Logically speaking, they should be able to get out easily, so why hadn't they seen the exit after walking for so long? There shouldn't be any danger for now. Let's keep going. Lin Yi didn't feel any warning signals from the jade, so his face didn't change at all. He didn't stop walking. Elder Yu heard Lin Yi say that, and he calmed down quite a bit. After all, Lin Yi's predictions were all accurate, and thinking back to the time they'd spent in the tomb, even if there weren't any traps, it would still take more than an hour. The group moved quickly, and after walking for almost a day, Lin Yi brought up the idea of resting when it was almost night. He didn't mind, but Xiaoka was too weak. She hadn't even reached golden class, and the qi in her body was pitiful. Naturally, her endurance was limited. Lin Yi saw that she was tired, so he suggested that she rest. Why so much trouble? Sleep? You're a mystic. Why are you sleeping? Old Hay didn't mind, but Elder Yu was going crazy after hearing Lin Yi's suggestion. They were almost out, and if they wanted to rest, they could just leave. Why rest in here? If you want to leave, leave on your own. You're already at the exit anyway. You don't need anyone else. Lin Yi looked at Elder Yu and said faintly, ignoring him as he sat down cross-legged. Yumph. Elder Yu wanted to leave on his own, but when he remembered that Lin Yi had something he wanted, he couldn't just leave yet. He humphed coldly and stopped, finding a place to sit down. In his mind, he was thinking if he should make things difficult for Lin Yi tonight. They didn't know how long this exit was, and Lin Yi kept walking and stopping. When would it end? Elder Yu could tell that Lin Yi wasn't taking care of Old Hay, but Xiaoka. Elder Yu was pissed. What a pervert, protecting a pretty girl as soon as he saw one. What was this female thief thinking, not caring at all? Lao He also let out a sigh of relief. He quickly found a place to lie down, not daring to waste any time. He had to rest as fast as he could. His stamina was the weakest here. To put it bluntly, he was worse than a dog. Looking at the lively General Wei Wu, Old Hay felt sorrowful. Wasn't he too weak? Xiaoka, on the other hand, used the time to rest. After a few bites of the compressed biscuits she brought with her, she fell asleep. Lingshan and Yu Qian, on the other hand, were practicing at the side, as was Elder Yu. Only Lin Yi, on the other hand, took out his torchlight and started reading the medical notes, looking at the Fushi 9 needles. Acupuncture was a very magical science, but with the passage of time, a lot of important information on acupuncture had been lost. The Fushi 9 needles had also become a legendary existence. What surprised Lin was that this set of Fushi 9 needles was a gift from a friend of Zhang Liju's, not something he got by chance. But after Zhang Liju's research, he could confirm that this set of Fushi 9 needles was the legendary set of needles that could revive the dead. But even so, Zhang Liju couldn't use it. The material used to make the Fushi needles was very special, But even so, Zhang Liju didn't find anything special about it. When he used it for acupuncture, it was the same as regular needles. There wasn't much special effect. After a few tests, Zhang Liju put the needles back into the box. There was nothing special about this legendary set of needles, and Zhang Liju couldn't help but feel disappointed. However, one day, Zhang Liju heard of a legend about the Fushi 9 needles. The Fushi 9 needles had to be used with a specialized practitioner's arts. Without the practitioner's arts, the Fushi 9 needles were no different from regular needles. Linny knew that there were some acupuncture techniques that required pure qi to be used, including Lin Yi's current acupuncture technique, which required pure qi to be used. It was the old man's family heirloom, but it didn't require a special practitioner's arts. Normal qi was enough to support it, and the key lay in the acupuncture technique. On the other hand, the essence of the 9 Fushi needles was clearly placed in the practitioner's arts. He had a treasure in his hands, but it was useless. This made Zhang Liju disappointed, and he could only keep it as a collector's item. This was also the reason why Lin Yi saw the Fushi 9 needles in the showroom. If it was really a personal item, Zhang Liju would have placed it in the last bedroom or in the main tomb with him, instead of putting it on the display cabinet like a decoration. From this, one could see that although Zhang Liju valued this set of Fushi 9 needles, he didn't care about it. If Zhang Liju didn't know how to use it, then Lin Yi definitely wouldn't use it. But keeping it by his side, who knows when it might be useful? This was something Lin Yi knew very well. Chapter 1401. From Zhang Liju's medical notes. Lin Yi learned about the use of the unwavering box. This was a box that could preserve the freshness of the herbs, and it could be used to store the fire spirit's fruit. Thinking back, the box also contained herbs, and the herbs hadn't gone bad after so many years. It was all because of the unwavering box. But his unwavering box was too small, and Lin Yi didn't know how big the fruit was. But from Zhang Liju's description, it shouldn't be that small, since Zhang Liju had to use 2 handkerchiefs to wrap it up and put it in the box. It seemed like the unwavering box should be able to store 1 fire spirit's fruit. This way, he could only save Xiao Xiao, not Xiao Xiao's mother. It seemed like Lin Yi was going to bring Xiao Xiao along, just like Zhang Liju, bringing his friend to the extreme north. But this wasn't a difficult thing for Lin Yi. Xiao Xiao was sealed in the ice coffin, and Lin Yi didn't need Lin Yi to take care of her. Lin Yi was deep in thought when Elder Yu, who wasn't far away, moved. Lin Yi's eyes were on the medical notes, but he was also paying attention to his surroundings. After all, there were all sorts of traps in the tomb, and Lin Yi was worried that some spirit beast would appear in the middle of the night. But instead of a spirit beast, Elder Yu came. Suddenly, Elder Yu channeled his practitioner's arts, pushing his strength to the limit. Earth class early phase. Elder Yu took advantage of the time when Lin Yi was reading to attack Lin Yi's chest. He wanted to kill Lin Yi in 1 hit. As for Lin Yi, Elder Yu had an indescribable fear in his heart. This guy was very strange, making qi bombs that no one could break. It was unstoppable. Even a master like Elder Yu didn't dare fight him head-on. So Elder Yu was hoping for 1 hit, and if the ambush was successful, he'd be able to kill Lin Yi instantly, and it'd be much easier for Elder Yu. Even if he couldn't kill Lin Yi, he'd at least be able to injure him. But Elder Yu's plan was perfect, and he didn't expect Lin Yi to dodge the attack the moment the palm came. "What are you doing? Robbing them?" Lin Yi smiled coldly at Elder Yu, a cruel smile on his lips. As Lin Yi expected, Elder Yu was getting impatient after getting out of the tomb, wanting to kill him and steal his treasures. What a quick reaction! Elder Yu's face was a little ugly. "So what if you saw through me? I want to kill you, so what? Kid, I've made up my mind. Although you dodged my attack, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too greedy and taking away the treasures I want. So you're saying that you can definitely beat me?" Lin Yi looked at Elder Yu with interest, not at all afraid. "You may have a chi bomb as a trump card, but you're still a mystic. If I risk getting injured and kill you, it's possible," Elder Yu said. This way, although I'll be heavily injured, you'll be dead for sure. That sounds reasonable. Lenny nodded and said faintly, That's right, kid. If you don't want to die, you'd better hand over the medical notes and the refiner notes, as well as that chi-gathering pill, and I'll let you live. Elder Yu looked at Lin E and said word by word. Hearing Elder Yu's words, Lin E couldn't help but laugh. This Elder Yu was too funny, wasn't he? At the end of the day, he still didn't dare to make a move and wanted to scare Lin E into giving him what he wanted. If this thing was in someone else's hands, Lin E would have gone for it already if he couldn't negotiate with him. Why would he waste so much time talking? But the more it was like this, the more Elder Yu's cowardice was showing. He didn't want to fight Lin E because he didn't have the confidence to do so. He didn't want to fight Lin E. Not only would he fail to threaten Lin E, but he'd also become a joke. What if I don't? Lin E smiled. Don't? Then I'll have to risk getting injured and let you die. Elder Yu felt disgusted. This male thief really didn't want to do things the hard way. He wouldn't give up until he saw the coffin. Wouldn't it be better if he just handed the thing over? He didn't have to threaten or bribe him anymore. All right, I'll make sure you get injured even if I die. Lin E said faintly. Everyone get up. After I beat Elder Yu up, you two go together and kill this old bastard. He still has a chi-gathering pill on him. Get it too. Lin E had the Jade Space, a super cheat, so he wasn't afraid of Elder Yu. He also had General Wei Wu as a life-saving trump card. Lin E wasn't afraid of death, or rather, Lin E wouldn't die at all. But Elder Yu was different. Lin Yi's energy bomb could definitely blow him up half to death. At this time, Ling Shan and Yu Qian, the two mystics, would definitely be able to kill Elder Yu. Any expert would be very weak when they were seriously injured. Being killed by an Earth-rank expert wasn't a strange thing. Not to mention that two experts who were only one rank apart were attacking at the same time. Ling Shan and Yu Qian had been waiting for Lin Yi's summons. After hearing Lin Yi's words, the two stood up abruptly and channeled their practitioner's arts, revealing their strength as mystic early phase. Wah! Elder Yu's eyes went wide as he looked at the two mystics. No way. Weren't these two golden class late phase peak masters? How did they become mystic all of a sudden? Elder Yu was shocked, speechless. You guys, how are you mystic? Yes, is there a problem? Lin E smiled faintly. They were hiding their strength before. Can't they? Lin E, naturally, wouldn't say that he was the one who increased their strength in a short time. That would be too shocking. Lin E didn't have full confidence that he could make Elder Yu stay, so it was better to keep this a secret. If people knew about this ability of his, it would bring him a lot of unnecessary trouble. Hiding their strength, Elder Yu's face was very ugly. There was no other reason than that he didn't have absolute confidence anymore. Before, Ling Shan and Yu Qian were only golden class, and although they were golden class late phase peak, they were 2 levels lower than Earth class. As far as he was concerned, even if he was heavily injured, these 2 golden class juniors wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Chapter 1402. The chances of winning were 50-50, depending on how heavily injured the Earth class was, as well as the skills and coordination of the 2 mystics. But even so, Elder Yu didn't dare gamble. The items belonged to the hidden house Yu, but his life was his. It wasn't worth risking his life for these things. He didn't have the confidence to win in the current situation, and with that, Elder Yu was thinking of retreating. On the other side, Lin E had already started to condense the energy bomb, looking at Elder Yu cautiously. Good, very good. Hiding your strength. No wonder you're so fearless. It turns out that you have 2 Mystic class helpers by your side. TSK, TSK. Thief couple, good strength, good tricks, good scheming. Elder Yu said good 3 times, and it was hard to tell if he was praising or mocking. A tomb raiding organization with such strength, it's an eye-opener for me. This combination of yours, even in the common world, you're at the top. Thanks for the compliment, Elder Yu. If we don't get along, then let's fight. Lin E said, between you and me, there will be a fight, but Elder Yu's tone changed suddenly. But not now. Male thief, I'll remember you. We'll meet again. Elder Yu didn't even finish his sentence before he turned and ran, his speed shocking Lin E. Lin E thought that Elder Yu was going to make a move when he heard the first half of the sentence. But the second half of the sentence, Elder Yu ran away faster than a rabbit, leaving Lin E speechless. He ran? Lin E looked at the energy bomb in his hand, not sure if he should cry or laugh. Condensed it for nothing? It didn't seem to be of much use anymore. Ling Shan and Yu Qian looked at each other. No way. Isn't this Earth class a little too cowardly? He's always been a coward, not even as big as I am. On the other side, Xiaoka had woken up a long time ago, but Lin E and Elder Yu were at each other's throats, so she didn't dare to say much. Only after Elder Yu left did she dare to speak. That's true. This old thing is more afraid of death than anyone else. Lin E nodded. Forget it. Let's not care about him anymore. Lin E didn't have absolute confidence that he could make Elder Yu stay, so he wouldn't chase after him. Lin Yi's main goal now was to find a way to save Xiao Xiao, so it was better to avoid trouble. Ling Shan and Yu Qian were a little disappointed. They'd just broken through to Mystic and were rubbing their palms in preparation for a test, but their target was nowhere to be seen. He won't come back, right? Ling Shan said worriedly as she looked at the exit. I'm afraid he'll turn around and attack us when we're not prepared. Unless his head's pierced. Lin E shook his head. He won't come back. Lin E had seen through Elder Yu's personality already. He was the type that would bully you to death if he could beat you, and run away if he couldn't. It'd be best if he never saw you again. Elder Yu had been as cowardly as a mouse on the way, and Lin E had seen that with his own eyes. He probably wouldn't see Elder Yu for a while. Ling Shan nodded after hearing Lin Yi's words. Lin E was probably right. Elder Yu probably wouldn't come back. All right, you guys go back to resting. I'll guard this place. Lin E sat cross-legged on the ground and continued reading the notebooks. This was good. Lin E didn't have to worry about Elder Yu taking it away, and so Lin didn't have to worry too much about memorizing the things in the books. Lin E waited for Xiaoka and Old Hay to wake up, but Elder Yu was nowhere to be seen. Evidently, Elder Yu didn't plan on coming back, and this made Lin E heave a sigh of relief. Elder Yu was afraid of Lin E, but Lin E wasn't afraid of Elder Yu either. It was just that Lin E was more fearless, and Elder Yu was more afraid of his life. This way, Elder Yu's aura was weaker. As the saying goes, the hard is afraid of the hard, and the hard is afraid of the reckless. Elder Yu, on the other hand, was the hard one, and Lin E was the reckless one. Comparing the two, it was obvious who was better. After eating some biscuits, Lin E led the group forward. They didn't see any traces of Elder Yu along the way. Elder Yu was very fast, and if he went at full speed, Lin E and the others wouldn't be able to catch up to him. Just like that, they walked for another 2 days. The nights were the same, and Lin E stood guard. On the third day, Lin E suddenly stopped. Lin Yi's sudden stop startled Ling Shan, Yu Qian, Xiaoka, and Old Hay. What's wrong, male thief? Is there danger ahead? Old Hay's heart had just calmed down a couple of days ago, and Lin Yi's actions almost made him explode. There's the smell of blood, and it seems fresh. Lin Yi said after a deep breath. The smell of blood? Ling Shan and Yu Qian paused and sniffed attentively. They were both sensitive to the smell of blood, and they could smell it as well when Lin Yi said that. There's indeed the smell of blood. It's not far away. It can't be Elder Yu, right? Old Hay said hesitantly. I don't know, but it's possible. With that, Lin Yi started walking forward. He could smell the blood, but the jade on Lin Yi's chest didn't warn him anymore. This meant that there shouldn't be any danger ahead. Seeing that Lin Yi was leaving, the group quickly followed, but they didn't get far before Lin Yi stopped again. What's wrong? Ling Shan asked. Look at the ground. Lin Yi pointed the flashlight at the ground not far away. Everyone looked down and saw a pile of swords scattered on the ground not far away. There were faint bloodstains on a few of the swords, and there were also bloodstains on a corner of the ground. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. The person who designed this tomb. I really don't know what to say. This was probably the last mechanism, and Elder Yu triggered it. It's simple, but if you don't put your guard up, the consequences will be severe. As expected, the mechanism here is controlled by a very inconspicuous silk thread. Once the thread breaks, The mechanism will activate, and the swords will shoot out. Elder Yu probably walked too hastily, and it makes sense that he couldn't see clearly in the darkness. Xiaoka said as she squatted down and found a very thin, broken thread. Chapter 14:03. Old Hay had seen everything that happened that night, but he was smart enough not to say anything about it. Lin Yi and his wife had become an unreachable existence in Old Hay's heart. They weren't even on the same level as small grave robbers like him. There's poison on the sword. Lin Yi picked up a sword and sniffed it. It's a very strong, slow poison. You won't feel anything at first, but as time goes on, the sickness will act up. If you don't find a good doctor to cure you, you'll be crippled even if you don't die. This poison will destroy the nervous system of the body, and you'll end up in a vegetative state. That's strong. Xiaoka jumped, quickly standing up to get away from the swords. This poison isn't contagious, right? I was so close to it. Will I be all right? It's fine. Even if you're poisoned, I can cure it. Lin Yi said faintly. This poison was strong, but it wasn't a problem for a medical expert like Lin Yi. Even Yao Wang could cure it, let alone Lin Yi. Oh, Xiaoka nodded, letting out a breath. Let's keep going. I'll be in front. Just be careful. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of anything. Lin Yi was already very careful, and even if there was danger ahead, Lin Yi had the jade to warn him. What they didn't expect was that after walking past the swords, they could see a faint light not far away. As they moved forward, the light became brighter and more dazzling. After walking for a few dozen meters, they made a turn and could easily see the exit in the distance. Just a few hundred meters away was the entrance of the cave. The sun was shining brightly outside, brightening everyone's mood that had been gloomy for the past few days. Great, we're finally out. Xiaoka cheered. Old Hay let out a breath of relief as well. He'd been through life and death in this tomb raiding, and he almost didn't make it back. After this, Old Hay probably wouldn't dare rob tombs anymore. Of course, Lingshan wouldn't give him that chance. You guys move yourself. I won't be joining in. Lin, he said quietly after seeing the exit, letting out a breath of relief. Okay, then take care of yourself. Lingshan understood what Lin Yi was saying. He wanted her and Yuqian to discuss catching Old Hay after they got out of the tomb. Lin Yi indeed couldn't participate in this, and he had his own things to do. He was probably in a rush to save Xiao Xiao, so he didn't have time for her. Lin Yi nodded, and the group finally reached the entrance of the cave. It was bright outside, and outside the cave was a small valley, very similar to the small valley they entered the tomb from before. The appearance of the cave was no different from a normal cave, and it wouldn't attract attention. Elder Yu was long gone, and the valley was very quiet. There weren't many plants in this mountain, and even the birds were pitiful. The entire valley was very quiet. Let's search here. I have something to discuss with a flying sparrow. Lin Yi stopped and said to Lingshan. Lingshan paused and looked at Xiaoka, understanding what Lin Yi meant. Lin Yi was going back to protect Xiaoka, and she and Yuqian were going to reveal their identities to Old Hay and arrest him. Xiaoka, naturally, would be arrested as well. Lin Yi was doing this to make Xiaoka a helper, not a grave robber. But Xiaoka really didn't take any relics, so Lingshan gave Lin Yi face. In fact, she knew that even if she didn't give him face, Lin Yi would still protect her. Someone as domineering as Lin Yi wasn't someone she could control. All right, we'll be going then. Lingshan didn't say much as she and Yuqian grabbed Old Hay's body, jumping up from the bottom of the valley to the top. Without a rope, Old Hay had to rely on Lingshan and Yuqian if he wanted to get out. After getting up, Old Hay was a little grateful. He didn't think that the female thief would be this benevolent, bringing him out of the valley after leaving the tomb, not abandoning him. He was very touched. Thank you, female thief. I'll remember this favor. Don't worry, I'll give you guys a share of the loot, whether you want it or not. No need, Lingshan said faintly. This is what we should do. Should do? Old Hay paused. Old Hay, this is my ID. You're under arrest. Yuqian had taken out an ID and showed it to Old Hay. Lingshan, on the other hand, took out a pair of handcuffs and put them on Old Hay's hands. Ah, Old Sable was dumbfounded by the scene in front of him. He didn't know what these two were up to, so he asked in confusion, "Female thief, what are you playing at? If you want my things, I'll give them all to you." "I don't want them. Just let me live." Ever since he knew that the female thief and her followers were all mystic class masters, Old Hay didn't even have the slightest intention to fight back. Mystic class masters were legendary existences. Even if Old Hay fought with his life on the line, it would be suicide. "Old Hay, don't even think about it. I'm the captain of Songshan's police department, Lingshan. I'm not a female thief," Lingshan said as she took off her mask. On the other side, Yuqian had taken off his mask as well, using his GPS to get a helicopter. Blackie was dumbfounded. No way, these two weren't grave robbers? Old Hay's heart sank as he looked at the two acting so seriously. This was most likely real. Old Hay could only smile bitterly inside. Even if it was real, he wouldn't dare fight back. Two mystic masters could kill him easily, and he didn't want to look for trouble. He could only lower his head and accept his fate. At the bottom of the valley, Xiaoka looked at Lin Yi, confused. She didn't know why Lin Yi asked her to stay. But, thinking back to what the male thief did to her in the tomb, she couldn't help but blush. He wasn't going to ask her to be his mistress, was he? Chapter 1404. But what Xiaoka didn't understand was why the female thief was so lenient towards the male thief. When the male thief wanted to stay alone with her, the female thief didn't say anything. Could it be that the couple was just a title, and they were just partners, not a real couple? At that thought, Xiaoka felt that it was very possible. On the way here, she didn't notice that the male thief and the female thief had an intimate relationship, and they didn't seem to communicate much. "Do you need something from me?" The usually bold female thief Xiaoka was a little shy now. "It's nothing. I'll send you out of the valley, and you can go the other way. Don't meet the female thief again, or it won't do you any good." Lin Yi didn't notice Xiaoka's expression. Lin Yi was thinking about whether or not he should go back to the tomb. After all, the notes mentioned the sky bowl pig, and Lin Yi was very interested in this little beast. If he wanted to find the fire spirit's fruit, he couldn't leave this little fellow. No matter what, Lin Yi had to go look for it. "Female thief? Does she want to hurt me?" Xiaoka paused. "Nope, but I don't want you two to meet again." Lin Yi didn't want to explain it. At least, he didn't want to reveal his identity in front of Xiaoka. Once he did, Lingshan's identity would be revealed as well, and it'd be awkward for him to see Xiaoka again. Plus, this was a secret mission, and the fewer people who knew, the better. "Oh!" Lin Yi's words were a little ambiguous, and Xiaoka misunderstood. She thought that Lin Yi was really interested in her, and he was afraid that the female thief would hurt her. Thinking about how she was about to part ways with Lin Yi, Xiaoka felt a little sad. Then, "Will I be able to see you again?" "I don't think so." Lin Yi frowned. He didn't know if he should cry or laugh at the weird feelings in Xiaoka's words. Did Xiaoka really think that he liked her? But Lin Yi didn't lie to her. This was probably the last time he would appear in front of Xiaoka as the male thief. After this mission, Lin Yi wouldn't pretend to be the male thief anymore, and the male thief had been killed by Yuqian a long time ago. There wouldn't be a male thief in this world anymore. Oh, Xiaoka was a little disappointed. She felt a little lost. This was the first man she had fallen for. Although she didn't know what he looked like, she didn't know his real name either. Other than that, Xiaoka didn't know anything else about the male thief. She hadn't seen him before, and from what he said, it seemed like they wouldn't meet again. "I'll send you out, and I'll go back to the tomb," Lin said. You still want to go back?" Xiaoka froze. "Yeah, I want to go into the death door. Maybe there's something I'm looking for inside." Lin Yi said, "How about I go with you?" Xiaoka blushed. "Although I'm a little clumsy, but I should be able to help." Xiaoka didn't want to leave Lin Yi, even if it was just a little longer. From what Lin Yi said, he didn't seem to have any other feelings for her. So after today, they might not meet again. And Xiaoka wouldn't accept any more missions from the thief's door. If she accepted another mission like this one, she would really die without Lin Yi. "All right, let's go together then." Lin Yi thought about it and nodded. Lin Yi's plan was to have Xiaoke accompany him. Although Lin Yi had the jade, his understanding of the tomb's mechanisms wasn't as good as Xiaoke's. Especially after Xiaoke put the life door and death door together. Lin Yi's idea was even stronger. Xiaoke was happy. Going back to the tomb would mean going to the death door again. It might be dangerous, but she didn't know why. But she felt a sense of security when she was with the male thief. It was as if nothing could hurt her as long as he was there. Are we going back now? Xiaoke asked. Yeah, I'll bring you back, Lin Yi said as he carried Xiaoke and put her under his armpit. He quickly ran back to the cave. Xiaoke didn't think that Lin Yi would carry her and run back. She was a little shy, but she didn't struggle. It felt good. Lin Yi was a mystic class master. After using his pure chi, he could maintain his fastest speed back to the life door and death door. He didn't need a rest along the way. But Xiaoke was different. She needed a rest from time to time, so Lin Yi took her place. General Weiwu was a mystic class dog as well. It wasn't hard for him to follow behind Lin Yi. And so, the man and dog began to run through the life door, not resting at all. Yu Xiaoke, on the other hand, didn't feel as nervous and worried as she was in the tomb, and she felt very safe, so she took a nap midway. Lin Yi put Xiaoke down when they returned to the life door and death door. So fast. Xiaoke felt that Lin Yi didn't take much time to run back. She was surprised. It doesn't take long for a mystic class master to run at full speed. Elder Yu is even faster. Lin Yi said, all right, let's not study this. The puzzle on the ground is the picture on the death door, right? As long as we put the pieces together, we can open the death door. That should be the case, but there's a pattern to the death door's puzzle. Every piece of the puzzle can't be moved randomly, or it'll bring unexpected danger. Xiaoke nodded. Okay, you guide me. Lin Yi nodded. Tell me which piece to move, and I'll move it. Ah, okay. Xiaoke wanted to say how dangerous it was, but she knew Lin Yi's personality. He did all the dangerous things along the way, even when Old Hay and Elder Yu were here. Not to mention when they were alone, Lin Yi protected her all the way. He definitely wouldn't let her move the pieces. Lin Yi walked over and stood in front of the death door. He was ready to move the pieces. Move this piece to the left first. Xiaoke pointed at a piece on the death door. This piece? Okay. Lin Yi put his hand on the piece. The jade didn't give off any warning signal. Lin Yi was relieved and moved the piece. Chapter 1405. And then Lin Yi asked, oh, then try to move this piece down. Xiaoke pointed at another piece. This one? Lin Yi placed his hand on the piece Xiaoke was talking about and was about to move it when the jade sent a warning signal. It seemed like if he moved it now, danger would appear. Lin Yi shook his head. Not this one. It's dangerous. Xiaoke paused. She didn't think that Lin Yi would feel danger without even touching the puzzle pieces. She felt that it was a little strange, but this wasn't the first time Lin Yi had acted like this on the way, so she wasn't surprised anymore. Then move the top piece and move this one down. This one. Lin Yi felt it and there was no danger, so he nodded. Okay, it works. This one's fine. Xiaoke paused. She didn't know how Lin Yi knew that moving the puzzle wouldn't bring danger to them. Huh. Lin Yi smiled as he moved the piece. This one is safe. Which one should we move next? Amazing. Xiaoke clicked her tongue, thinking that this male thief was quite skillful, being able to tell if there was danger just by touching something. Xiaoke definitely didn't have this kind of ability. Xiaoke looked at the pieces on the ground. This one, can I move it? Yes, Lin Yi said and moved the piece Xiaoke was pointing at. What about this one? Xiaoke asked. No. Lin Yi shook his head. And this one? Xiaoke asked again. This one is fine. Lin Yi nodded. 10 hours later, Lin Yi finally placed the last piece of the puzzle in the correct position. He stepped aside and let out a long sigh of relief. I'm finally done. In actuality, Lin Yi had a golden finger, but he couldn't move the puzzle as he pleased. He had to test every single piece, and that greatly delayed the efficiency of moving the puzzle. As a result, the two of them worked together for more than 10 hours before they were able to complete the puzzle. Compared to the life gate pattern from before, it was almost twice as long. Click! On the death door, there was a sound similar to when the life door opened, followed by a loud rumbling sound. The mechanism was completely activated. It's finally open. Xiaoka breathed in relief. But there might be danger in here. We need to be prepared. Stay beside me later. Don't do anything rash. I'll be able to sense it immediately. It'll be fine, Lenny said. Without Elda by his side, Lin, he was a lot more casual. And Xiaoka nodded. She didn't know why, but she had an inexplicable sense of trust towards Lin Yi. She felt that as long as Lin Yi was there was nothing to be afraid of. Now, only Lin Yi, Xiaoka, and General Weiwu were left in the tomb, so Lin Yi didn't need to ask anything. He walked over and opened the death door. Even if Lin Yi didn't do it, Xiaoka would do it, so it was safer for Lin Yi to do it. It was completely different from the life door. The path behind the death door was just like the tomb, smooth and spacious, even more luxurious and beautiful than before. The two sides of the path were smooth and flat, but the wall behind the death door was engraved with murals. Lin Yi walked very slowly to prepare for any danger that might come at any time, but the jade on his chest didn't alert Lin Yi, which surprised him. After walking for about a kilometer, it was still very peaceful. There was no movement from the jade pendant, and nothing happened in the passageway. Why is it so quiet? There's no movement at all? Xiaoka asked curiously. How would I know? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. All right, let me ask you something. Inside the death door, are there any powerful traps? That might not be the case. Xiaoka thought for a while and said, Normally, that's true, but sometimes there are exceptions. There might be no traps in the death door, and all the traps are concentrated in the place where the death door should be opened. Lin Yi nodded and continued walking. Although he heard Xiaoka's explanation, Lin Yi didn't let his guard down. Suddenly, General Weiwu, who was in front of Lin Yi, stopped and stood in the middle of the path. What's wrong? Lin Yi was startled, not understanding what General Weiwu meant. Was there danger? At least, the jade on Lin Yi's chest didn't send out any warning signals. Woof, woof. General Weiwu barked at the darkness in front of them. Lin Yi and Xiaoka were confused, not knowing what General Weiwu was trying to do. In the darkness far away, there was no movement at all. Lin Yi was puzzled, but General Weiwu called out twice again. This time, there seemed to be a hint of anger in its cries. Woof, woof. General Weiwu barked even louder than before. This time, there was finally movement in the darkness. There were two weak GG sounds, and then a small shadow walked towards General Weiwu, twisting and wobbling as if it was very scared. What is that? Yu Xiaoka looked at the thing that was walking over and asked curiously. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had the same question, but he was excited for no reason. Was it really that thing? When the little fellow walked closer, Lin Yi's eyes finally froze. His guess was right. From the looks of it, it was that little fellow. This little thing looked a bit like a pig, but it wasn't very similar. Its entire body was round and upright, but it walked on two hind legs. Its front paws were like arms, hanging on both sides, swaying. It was a bit like a cute version of Zhu Beiji. Looking at the little fellow, it seemed a little wronged, as if General Weiwu disturbed its dream. It wanted to protest, but it didn't dare to. It could only walk over under General Weiwu's angry roar. Chapter 1406. One had to know that if a person without any cultivation wanted to rely on eating some treasures to increase the qi in his body and reach the middle phase of the golden class, he would be able to eat the entire wealth of a noble house to the point of going broke. Although Lin Yi didn't know how many treasures this little guy needed to become like this, it was obvious that it wasn't a small amount. It should be Skybolt Pig. Lin Yi said to Yu Xiaoka, I'm here for this little thing. Skybolt Pig? One interesting name, Yu Xiaoka said. At this moment, General Weiwu and Skybolt Pig started conversing. Although Lin Yi didn't understand what they were talking about, General Weiwu definitely understood what Lin Yi meant. It was probably communicating with Skybolt Pig to pass on Lin Yi's message to this little thing. At this moment, Lin Yi understood why the jade didn't warn him when General Weiwu roared. This little thing wasn't dangerous at all. Therefore, the jade didn't warn him, but General Weiwu sensed the little thing's message and called it out. It's interesting, but this little guy does look interesting too. Lin, he said as he looked at the pig on the ground. Since this piglet can walk around freely in the tomb behind the death door, then our previous guess should be correct. There's no danger here. If there's a dangerous trap, it'd be a tragedy if this little thing triggered it, Xiaoka said. What's wrong? Xiaoka asked. That makes sense. Lin nodded and looked at General Weiwu and the little thing chattering. He couldn't help but ask, Lil Wei, what do you think? Does this little thing want to go with us? To find the fire spirit's fruit? Woof. General Weiwu turned around and shook its head at Lin Yi. It raised its two front paws and moved as if it was helpless. Then it gestured for Lin Yi to calm down, telling him not to worry and to leave it to it. All right, I'll leave it to you then. Lin Yi nodded. Luckily, General Weiwu was smart enough to communicate with this little thing. If not, even if Lin Yi forcefully took this pig away, it wouldn't listen to him. If it didn't help him find a fire spirit's fruit, Lin Yi couldn't do anything about it. Plus, this little thing would disappear without a trace. Where would Lin Yi find it? Therefore, it was better to let General Weiwu do its job and let it go with him. This would save him a lot of trouble. However, it could be seen that even though the little fellow's rank was lower than General Weiwu and he was afraid of General Weiwu, he seemed to be very stubborn. He kept chattering with General Weiwu and had no intention of leaving with Lin Yi. This dog can understand you? Xiaoka felt that the male thief was a little unbelievable. He had a high-class spirit beast with him, one that had high intelligence and could understand human language. It was too strange. It can understand, that's amazing. Lin Yi said, let's sit down and wait for a while. It seems like General Weiwu won't be able to finish the little fellow's job in a short amount of time. Let's take a break first. Okay. Xiaoka listened to Lin Yi. She felt that staying here alone with Lin Yi for a while would be a beautiful memory in her life. She didn't know if she would be able to see Lin Yi again. Thinking about this, Xiaoka felt a little melancholy. This was the first time she fell for a guy, but it ended in silence. After some hesitation, Xiaoka said, let's talk. Talk about what? Lin Yi asked. Tell me about yourself. Are you and the female thief husband and wife? Xiaoka asked. Huh. No. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiaoka to ask this, but he didn't lie to her and told her the truth. You're not? If you're not husband and wife, then why are you called a couple thieves? Xiaoka heard Lin Yi's answer, and her heart skipped a beat. Old Hay's group is called Red Pagoda. Do you think he looks like a pagoda? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. I have another girlfriend this time. I'm here to find medicine for her. You have a girlfriend. Xiaoka was a little happy when she heard that the female thief and Lin Yi weren't husband and wife, but when she heard that Lin Yi already had a girlfriend, she was a little disappointed. Is it that fire spirit's fruit you were talking about? Yeah, I need this little fellow to help me find it. Lin Yi pointed at Skybolt Pig. I see. No wonder you risked coming back to the tomb. You treat your girlfriend so well. Xiaoka said enviously. She was thinking, how good would it be if Lin Yi treated her this well? This is her only hope. She can only live if she finds the fruit. Or else. Lin Yi stopped here. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's rest for a while. Oh, Xiaoka nodded. Zhao Fafa finally got his distant cousin Zhao Qibing's address from his father. He had met Zhao Qibing before, but it was only on the dining table. Zhao Qibing said that he would take care of him, but Zhao Fafa never contacted him after that. This time, Zhao Fafa couldn't take it anymore. He asked his follower's son, Xiaoxing, to scare Lin Yi, but not only did he fail, he was bullied by Lin Yi. How could he accept this? Zhao Fafa's ego had been inflated to the limit recently. How could he take this lying down after being bullied like this? In Zhao Fafa's eyes, there was nothing in Songshan that he couldn't deal with. As the new head of Songshan's 4 young masters, Zhao Fafa felt that he had to get back at Lin Yi. He wanted to teach him a lesson and make him give Tang Yun to him. So, after getting Zhao Qibing's contact, Zhao Fafa rushed to the floating cloud bar immediately. Qibing had been quite happy these past few days. There was no other reason than that he had an Earth class helping him out of nowhere. It was like adding wings to a tiger. Boss Zhu didn't explicitly say that he'd support him, but it seemed like it wasn't far from the truth. He believed that in time, Boss Zhu would be under his wing and become one of his generals. Master Bing, there's a kid driving a Ferrari outside. He claims to be your cousin and wants to see you. What do you think? Su Jianong walked in and asked. Chapter 1407. Master Bing, could it be that Zhao Fafa, Zhao Guangxi's son? Sihua had a good memory, and he'd been working with Guangxi's construction team to develop the slums recently. That was why Sihua thought of this person. Him? Call him in then. Qibing thought of this person after hearing Sihua's words. He nodded and asked Su Jianong to call him in. Su Jianong replied and left the room. After a while, he came back with Zhao Fafa. Zhao Qibing saw that it was indeed him and nodded. Zhao Fafa, why are you here? Cousin bro, I was bullied. I'm here to ask for your help. Zhao Fafa didn't say much and went straight to the point. You were bullied? Bullied by someone? Qibing frowned. What happened? It's like this, my dad is working with you now, cousin bro, right? I've earned a lot of money recently, so I bought a villa for myself. In the district, I saw a girl. I wanted to hook up with her, but her boyfriend saw us, so Zhao Fafa told Zhao Qibing about his conflict with Lin Yi, but he didn't mention Lin Yi and Tang Yun's names. To him, they were nobodies, and Zhao Qibing wouldn't know them even if he told him, so he didn't say anything. Oh, what's the kid's background? Qibing listened to Zhao Fafa's story and felt that this kid was too much of a trash. He couldn't even handle a girl, and now he was asking for help? He was too weak. If it weren't for the cooperation between Zhao Guangxi and House Zhao, Qibing wouldn't even bother with this relative who popped out of nowhere. He doesn't have any background, I think. He's a rich second generation, and he usually drives a Bentley. He's definitely not as good as you, cousin bro. Zhao Fafa said. Oh, but you said that the kid knows Kung Fu, and your gangsters aren't his match. Normal people won't be able to help you. If you want to teach him a lesson, you need practitioners. Qibing said. But isn't it a bit overkill to send practitioners for such a small matter? Not really. Cousin brother, this is also the time for us House Zhao to be famous. I told him your name before, but he said that he didn't know you. He had never heard of you before. Zhao Fafa started to exaggerate. Look, how infuriating. What the hell was that? I can't believe I didn't know your name. I'm from a hidden house, so I need to keep a low profile. It's normal that no one knows my name. Plus, the people who know me are all famous people in Songshan City. Those Tom, Dick, and Harry wouldn't know me. Although Qibing said that, he was still a little pissed. These 2 days, Boss Zhu's friendliness had boosted Qibing's confidence, and now that someone was looking down on him, naturally, he wouldn't feel good. If that's the case, why don't we let Uncle Zhu go with you? Uncle Zhu, you've just recovered from your injury. Why don't you go and stretch your body? No problem. We'll do as Master Bing says. I'll go out for a bit. Uncle Zhu said. In fact, he was a little bored during this period of time. He also wanted to go out and exercise his muscles. However, teaching a young master who knew a little martial arts a lesson was a little overkill. Thank you, cousin brother. Zhao Fafa had learned some secrets about the noble houses from his father recently. There were practitioners in the noble houses, and the lowest level golden class practitioner could fly on roofs and run on walls, crushing boulders with their fists. This was a very powerful existence. This Uncle Zhu was obviously a practitioner. Although Zhao Fafa didn't know his level, he thought that Lin Yi was dead for sure. Going against a practitioner was like eating arsenic. You don't have to thank me. Since you said that you're from House Zhao, you just have to work hard for me in the future. We can talk about anything. Zhao Qibing waved his hand. All right, Uncle Zhu used to be a mystic class practitioner, but because of his injuries, he lost some of his strength. But he's still a golden class master. Dealing with a kid who knows martial arts is a piece of cake. That's amazing. Thank you, cousin brother. Thank you, Uncle Zhu. Zhao Fafa was overjoyed. After leaving the floating cloud bar, Zhao Fafa felt great. He had a golden class master by his side. Why would he be afraid of Lin Yi? He didn't stop and drove Uncle Zhu directly to the district he lived in. Zhao Fafa knew Tang Yun's address very well. so he brought Uncle Zhu directly to her house. Tang Yin had just returned home from school when someone knocked on her door. Mrs. Tang was puzzled. Who would come at this hour? Although they had gotten to know a lot of people in this area, they weren't close enough to visit each other. Only Xiaofan's family could visit, but Xiaofan's family knew that Tang Yun had to study at night, so they wouldn't knock on her door at this hour. Who is it? Mrs. Tang asked. The property management, checking the water meter. Zhao Fafa knew that Mrs. Tang wouldn't open the door if he said that he was here for revenge, so he pretended to be a property management employee. Mrs. Tang wasn't on guard. After all, the security in this area was quite good, and anyone who wasn't a resident would be checked by the security guards. And so, Mrs. Tang opened the door, and Zhao Fafa barged in without any hesitation. What do you want? Mrs. Tang jumped as she looked at Zhao Fafa. He didn't look like someone from the property management company at all. Uncle Zhu, on the other hand, looked like a door god's bodyguard, standing beside Zhao Fafa with a cold face. Where's your daughter? Zhao Fafa looked at Mrs. Tang. You're looking for Yin? Mrs. Tang didn't know who Zhao Fafa was, so she was a little scared. Why are you looking for her? Ask her to come out. Zhao Fafa was confident with Uncle Zhu by his side. He humphed. Hurry up, or don't blame me for tearing down your house. Tang Yun heard the quarrel in the living room and quickly walked out. She frowned when she saw Zhao Fafa making a scene in the house. It's you? Tang Yun, where's your boyfriend? Find him and bring him here to die quickly. Motherfucker, how dare he humiliate me last time? I'll teach him a lesson this time. Zhao Fafa saw that Tang Yun was here, but he wasn't in a rush to flirt with her. His main purpose was to teach Lin Yi a lesson. As long as he made Lin Yi submit, getting Tang Yun would be a piece of cake. Chapter 1408. He's not coming. Then don't blame me for being impolite. If he doesn't come, I'll take you away by force. Zhao Fafa laughed coldly. Tang Yun, since your boyfriend doesn't want you anymore, you can follow me. Is there something wrong with you? Tang Yun didn't expect Zhao Fafa to be so shameless, but Lin Yi wasn't home. Tang Yun couldn't call Lin Yi and disturb him. He was doing something important. How could she disturb him? Little girl, this old man advises you to do as he says and get your boyfriend here. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. With that, Uncle Zhu swung his hand to the coffee table in Tang Yun's living room. With a loud bang, Uncle Zhu smashed the coffee table into smithereens, scaring Mrs. Tang to the point where her face turned ashen. Uncle Zhu didn't know who Tang Yun was. He didn't know that she was Lin Yi's girlfriend. Although Lin Yi injured him because of Tang Yun, Uncle Zhu had never seen her face before. The name Tang Yun sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember where he heard it. Yun, hurry up and call Lin Yi. Tell him to come here as soon as possible. If he doesn't come, the house will be torn apart. Mrs. Tang was scared. She lowered her voice and said to Tang Yun, Only Lin Yi can deal with these people. Hurry up and find him. I'll try. Tang Yun didn't have a choice. She didn't expect the people around Zhao Fafa to be so fierce. According to Tang Yun's experience, this person should be a practitioner. A normal person wouldn't be able to deal with him. Tang Yun walked into her room quickly. She didn't plan to call Lin Yi. Instead, she called House Chu's villa. Meng Yao was the one who picked up the phone. Tang Yun told her about her problem, and Meng Yao passed the phone to Er Gooden. Lin Yi wasn't home, so Er Gooden was the only one who could make the call. Practitioner? How about this? I'll let Wu Qintian have a look. Don't worry, Tang Yun's sis-in-law. I'll tell him now. Gooden wouldn't be able to go by himself. He'd used up all his strength, and the poison in his body was on the verge of exploding. It was hard enough for him to live a normal life, let alone fight people. After hanging up, Gooden went to find Qintian. Wu Qintian, Tang Yun's sis-in-law, is in some trouble. A servant brought a practitioner to cause trouble. Can you go take a look? Of course, no problem. Leave it to me. Qintian patted his chest. Boss's business is my business, and boss's wife's business is my business as well. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. He's just a practitioner brought by a servant. He's probably not a master. I'll deal with him. Be careful. If you can't handle it, don't force it. When Fauber comes back, I'll send him to help. Gooden said. Faubert went to pick up Chu Pengzhan after sending Ming Yao, Yu Shu, and Tang Yun from school, so he wasn't home now. Okay, boss, just watch me. Chen Tian finally had a chance to work for Gooden, and naturally, he was very enthusiastic. He treated this as a test from Gooden, and so he rushed to Tang Yun's house after receiving the order. Chen Tian rushed into the house and saw Tang Yun and Mrs. Tang standing anxiously in the living room. On the other side, there was an old man and a young master-looking man. Both of them looked like they had everything under control. Tang Yun's sis-in-law, I'm here. These two bastards? Chen Tian said to Tang Yun as soon as he entered the room. Are they the fuckers? Kid, who are you? Zhao Fafa froze when he saw that it wasn't Lin Yi, but another young man. Tang Yun, you changed boyfriends? Are you retarded? I've already called her sis-in-law. Don't you know who I am? Chen Tian laughed and looked at Zhao Fafa as if he was looking at an idiot. You're that bastard's young master, right? I'll give you a chance now. Apologize to Tang Yun's sis-in-law, or the consequences will be severe. Zhao Fafa blushed. He didn't hear Chen Tian's words clearly and mistook him as Tang Yun's new boyfriend, but he was thick-skinned and didn't say anything. Who do you think you are? Severe consequences? You're bluffing, right? Oomph. Chen Tian humphed coldly and turned his head. He saw a copper wall lamp in front of Tang Yun's house, and he pulled it down. He then casually pinched the base of the lamp, and the shape changed. See? I'll pinch your head and it'll explode. Golden class, early phase, physical practitioner. Uncle Zhu's face froze. He didn't expect this person to be a practitioner as well. Although he was only early phase, he wasn't simple. There were masters like this in the common world. Old man, you have good eyesight. Since that's the case, why don't you get the hell out of here? Chen Tian said proudly. Tang Yun was speechless. Was this Chen Tian here to save the day or to destroy the place? Uncle Zhu smashed a coffee table, and Chen Tian pulled down the lamp on the wall. But thinking that Chen Tian was doing this out of goodwill, Tang Yun couldn't say anything. Ignorant kid, do you think you're strong because you're an early phase golden class master? You just stepped into the door of a practitioner. Don't overestimate yourself. Uncle Zhu had a mocking look on his face after hearing Chen Tian's words. I used to be a mystic early phase peak, but now that I'm injured, my strength has dropped to golden class. But even so, you're still no match for me. Mystic class? You're a mystic? Are you kidding me? Chen Tian laughed after hearing Uncle Zhu's words. Since that's the case, let me test your strength. With that, Chen Tian threw a punch at Uncle Zhu. He was an expert in kung fu, and his iron hands were as hard as steel. Even his fist was as hard as steel. Uncle Zhu didn't think that Chen Tian would attack him without any warning at all. Uncle Zhu didn't finish what he wanted to say. He wanted to test Chen Tian's background, but before he could ask, Chen Tian started fighting. Chapter 1409. Uncle Zhu was about to explode. Even if his strength dropped to golden class, he felt that he should still be a golden class mid-phase master. Although it wasn't very stable, he should still be much stronger than Chen Tian, who had just started. Plus, he was a mystic before, so he should be much stronger than this guy in front of him. But it was precisely because he was so much stronger that Uncle Zhu realized that he had failed miserably. That made him even angrier. You're asking for it, kid. Uncle Zhu channeled his practitioner's arts, preparing to attack Chen Tian. Chen Tian's punch had landed squarely on Uncle Zhu's body, causing him serious internal injuries. It was a great humiliation to him. Chen Tian was startled. He didn't think that the old man in front of him was really a golden class, and he had the strength of a golden class mid-phase at that. He had thought that Uncle Zhu was just a braggart who knew some secrets about practitioners, but he didn't think that Uncle Zhu was actually this strong. Old man, you really are a golden class mid-phase master. Chen Tian was a bit arrogant, but he didn't dare to be careless in the face of such absolute strength. In the path of practitioners, strength was strength, and arrogance wasn't something that could be won. So, Chen Tian subconsciously took a step back. Even so, Uncle Zhu was fast, and his fist was already at Chen Tian's chest. Chintian saw that he couldn't dodge, and his body was already against the wall. He had no choice but to raise his fist and meet Uncle Zhu's fist head-on. Bam! The two collided, and a loud sound rang out. Chintian's fists were unparalleled, but in front of Uncle Zhu, who was stronger than him, his fists still hurt from the impact. If it weren't for the fact that he practiced hand techniques, his hand would have been crippled by Uncle Zhu. Uncle Zhu was a spiritual practitioner, and he had an advantage over physical practitioners. Even if he was at the same level as Chintian, he could still be stronger than Chintian, let alone a middle-phase master. Huh, your hand is actually fine? Uncle Zhu's original plan was to cripple Chintian's arm, even if he couldn't hit him. Chintian had heavily injured him earlier, and his chi and blood were in a mess. He was furious and used all of his strength in this punch, but it didn't do anything to Chintian. Hey, old thing, you haven't eaten your fill, have you? My hand is naturally fine. Chintian wasn't dumb enough to say that his main training was his hands. Wouldn't that be exposing his weakness? It was fine if it was someone weaker than him, but he didn't dare say it to someone stronger than him. Hand over your life. Uncle Zhu's eyes were red from Chintian's words, and he used all his chi to attack Chintian. He knew that Chintian's attack had greatly damaged his strength, and he could have easily taken out this early-phase Golden Class Junior, but he didn't expect that he would get injured. He couldn't use his full strength anymore, and he had to end the battle as soon as possible before his injuries flared up. Chintian didn't dare to fight head-on. He turned and ran the moment Uncle Zhu opened his mouth. However, the difference in strength between the two was too big. Uncle Zhu was a Golden Class Master who had fallen from Mystic Class, and he had more experience and strength than normal Golden Class Masters. How could Chintian, who had just started his training, be his opponent? The sneak attack was just a surprise attack, and it was almost impossible for him to hit Uncle Zhu now. Not to mention fighting. Even if Chintian wanted to run, it wouldn't be that easy. Seeing that Uncle Zhu was catching up, Chintian hesitated. If he quickened his pace, he would reach Tang Yun's house soon. He believed that Uncle Zhu wouldn't chase him if he ran out of the house. After all, Zhao Fafa was still in the house, and Uncle Zhu wouldn't leave him behind. But if he ran away, what would happen to Tang Yun? This was a mission given to him by his boss, and he had to protect Tang Yun. With that thought, Chintian gritted his teeth. Since he had recognized her as his boss, running away now would be a huge crime. How would House Wu's reputation go? He was the young master of House Wu, and his every word and action represented House Wu. If he ran away now, he wouldn't have the face to show his face anymore. Especially since Chintian was someone who cared about his face, he wouldn't do something like this. And so, Chintian stopped running. His fists turned into palms, and he stood on the spot, ready to fight head-on with Uncle Zhu. As long as he could stall for time until Faubert arrived, everything would be fine. Faubert was a Golden Class late-phase peak master, and it shouldn't be a problem for him to fight Uncle Zhu. He just needed to hold on for a while. Come on, old man, have a taste of Grandpa Wu's Titan Palm, Chintian said as he raised his palms up high. Die! Uncle Zhu didn't think that Chintian would take the initiative to fight, and he was even angrier. This kid didn't respect him at all. Uncle Zhu felt wronged. Before he dropped his level, he only needed one punch to defeat a Golden Class early-phase master like Chintian. They weren't on the same level at all. But now, after fighting for so long, there was no result, and this kid was laughing at him. Uncle Zhu rushed towards Chintian and raised his palms. This time, he gathered all his chi into his palms, and his goal was to kill Chintian in one hit. Boom! Chintian's palms collided with Uncle Zhu's. Even though Chintian practiced Iron Fist arts, he was still sent flying by Uncle Zhu's powerful chi, crashing into Tang Yun's house's security door. The door was deformed from the impact. Chintian spat out a mouthful of blood as he fell from the door. His face was pale, and the shirt on his chest was dyed red with blood. Chintian's hand was fine, and it wasn't damaged by Uncle Zhu, but Chintian's body was heavily injured. His organs were all dislocated, and his meridians were mostly destroyed. But Even though Chintian was heavily injured, Uncle Zhu wasn't in a good state either. He was injured by Chantian earlier, and now that their palms met, Chintian's sturdy palms rebounded some of the force back to Uncle Zhu's body, worsening his injuries. Ah, Tang Yin was shocked when she saw Chantian spitting out blood. Are you okay? Chapter 14:10. However, Zhao Fafa realized that Uncle Zhu's face wasn't right. It was a little too red. He was stunned and quickly shut his mouth. Uncle Zhu's face was a little red. Zhao Fafa could tell that Uncle Zhu was injured as well. Kid, you're good. You're just a golden class early phase master, yet you managed to injure me. You even rebounded the force back to me when we clashed. What a surprise. Uncle Zhu smiled coldly. If I'm not wrong, you're Tie So? You're physical practitioner, aren't you? Chintian said that his surname was Wu, and considering his kung fu, it wasn't hard for Uncle Zhu to guess Chintian's identity. That's right. Since you know who I am, why don't you scram? You injured me. Aren't you afraid of House Wu's revenge? Chintian's blood was boiling, and his body was in pain. He didn't have the strength to fight Uncle Zhu anymore, so he could only use words to scare Uncle Zhu, hoping that it would buy him some time. Ha ha ha! Uncle Zhu heard Chintian's words and laughed hysterically. You're just a common world noble house. How dare you talk about revenge in front of me? House Wu, I don't care about you. Since you've pissed me off, you'll have to pay the price. Die. With that, Uncle Zhu prepared to end Chintian's life. Wait. Chintian jumped in fright. He didn't think that his name wouldn't work. This guy wasn't afraid of House Wu's revenge at all, and he still wanted to kill him. Chintian sweated profusely. He didn't want to die. Wasn't this old man too cruel? He wanted to kill someone? Do you have any last words? Uncle Zhu asked faintly. He wasn't in a rush to kill Chintian. As far as he was concerned, Chintian was a dead man. There was no way he could escape from him, so it didn't matter if he killed him now or later. If you kill me, my boss will avenge me. Chintian said. My boss won't let you go. Chintian thought. Faubert, why aren't you here yet? I'm about to die. Come save me. Your boss. Uncle Zhu was stunned. Who's your boss? Uncle Zhu, this kid is playing word games with you. His boss is Tang Yun's boyfriend. Zhao Fafa explained and turned to Chintian. Don't worry, after you die, the next one will be Lin Yi. Lin Yi's my boss isn't Lin. Chintian continued to stall for time. Huh? Uncle Zhu was stunned when he heard Lin Yi's name. What did you say? Your boss is Lin Yi? Which Lin Yi? Which other Lin Yi could it be? That Air Gooden Bro's boss who killed Jean Woody with one punch. Air Gooden Bro is my boss, so naturally Lin Yi is my boss. Chintian said. If I die, you'll be finished. Your whole family will be finished. My boss and my boss will kill your whole family. Ugh. Uncle Zhu's face darkened. He felt his legs trembling. No way. This kid's boss was Air Gooden, the one who killed Jean Woody with one punch. And Air Gooden's boss was Lin Yi. Why was it Lin Yi again? Uncle Zhu wanted to cry. What the fuck? Wasn't this a trap? Even Master Bing didn't dare to do anything to Lin Yi, and he was here to help Zhao Fafa and cause trouble for Lin Yi. This girl was Lin Yi's girlfriend, right? Uncle Zhu's eyes lit up. He finally understood why the name Tang Yin was so familiar. Back then, he was beaten into a cripple and Zhao Qibing's legs were broken. Wasn't it because he provoked this Tang Yin? And now he was here again? As long as Chintian wasn't dead, he believed that Lin Yi wouldn't pursue the matter. But he was here to harass Tang Yin again. Someone like Lin Yi was so protective of his own people. Uncle Zhu didn't dare to think about it. What now? Scared now? Chintian wasn't an idiot. He could tell that Uncle Zhu was afraid of Lin Yi and Air Gooden just by looking at his face. He didn't know why, but it was a good thing. It's a misunderstanding. I've offended you before. Uncle Zhu didn't have a choice. He had to make things clear. If Lin Yi came because of this, wouldn't he be causing trouble for Master Bing? Uncle Zhu himself wasn't strong enough, so he couldn't do anything to Lin Yi. He could only lower his head. This time, it was Chintian's turn to be stunned. He didn't think that Air Gooden and Lin Yi's names would be so useful. Uncle Zhu was so scared that it turned into a misunderstanding. But Qin Tian was puzzled. Didn't he know that Tang Yun was Lin Yi's girlfriend? Why did he look like he didn't know? Oomph. Since you know that Tang Yun-in-law is Lin Yi's girlfriend, you still dare to come? You're really not afraid of death. Qin Tian humphed coldly. I didn't know about it before. It was my fault. I'm sorry, I'll leave now. Uncle Zhu didn't dare to stay any longer. He turned around and left. Zhao Fafa was panicking. He didn't understand. Why did they give up on such a good situation? Didn't they want to kill Qin Tian and let Lenny die? How did it turn into a misunderstanding? What was going on? Uncle Zhu, don't go. Why are you leaving? Zhao Fafa was panicking. He quickly chased after Uncle Zhu, but Uncle Zhu didn't even look back. Zhao Fafa had no choice but to follow. If Uncle Zhu wasn't here, he wouldn't be Wu Qintian's opponent. Wouldn't he be beaten to death? Qin Tian wanted to teach Zhao Fafa a lesson, but he didn't even have the strength to get up from the ground. His body felt like it was broken. Seeing that Uncle Zhu left, he felt relieved. He spat out another mouthful of blood and fainted. Are you okay? Do you need to call the ambulance? Tang Yun saw that Qin Tian fainted and panicked. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know if other practitioners needed to go to the hospital after they got injured, but Lenny didn't. So she didn't know if Qin Tian should go or not. But Qin Tian had already fainted. He couldn't answer Tang Yun. Chapter 14:11. He's from our district. He wanted to chase me, but I rejected him, so he came to cause trouble. Tang Yun said simply, let's not talk about this first. I need to call Air Gooden and ask him what should we do with this Wu Qintian. Tang Yun picked up her phone and was about to call Ming Yao's house number when Faubert walked in with big steps. Tang Yun, are you there? Are you okay? Did the enemy leave? Faubert. Tang Yun put down the phone when she saw Uncle Fu. Uncle Fu, Wu Qintian's injured by Uncle Zhu. Do you want to send him to the hospital? Uncle Fu's eyes lit up when he saw Uncle Fu. Oh. Faubert heard Tang Yun's words and quickly walked over. He bent down and checked Qintian's injury, frowning. It would be great if Lil Yi was here, but he isn't, so we can only send him to the hospital first. I'll drive him there now. Do you want to come with me? Okay. Tang Yun nodded. Wu Qintian was injured because of her. Naturally, she wouldn't just ignore him. Tang Yun quickly changed her shoes and said to her mother, Mom, you stay at home and ask the management to fix the door. I'll go out for a while. Tang Yun wasn't worried that Uncle Zhu and the others would come back. Since they ran away after hearing Lin Yi's name, it was obvious that they wouldn't come back. But what happened today made Tang Yun a little depressed. Zhao Fafa didn't know how strong Lin Yi was, but the helper he invited, Uncle Zhu, was very afraid of Lin Yi. He ran away after hearing Lin Yi's name, as if he was afraid that Lin Yi would come to him. If that was the case, Tang Yun should have told Uncle Zhu about Lin Yi's name earlier. How could she let Qin Tian get injured? But how would she know that Zhao Fafa didn't tell Uncle Zhu about Lin Yi's name? On the way to the hospital, Tang Yun told Faubert what happened. Faubert nodded and sighed. So, it's Uncle Zhu. He's the bodyguard that Lin Yi injured. It was because of the demolition of your house that Lin Yi did it. It's him. No wonder he's so scared of Lin Yi. Tang Yun realized. When I came here before, I saw two people coming out of your unit, got into a Ferrari sports car and left. It turned out to be the two of them. If I knew this, I would have stopped them. Faubert said, there's no need for that. Now that Lin Yi isn't home, it's better to avoid trouble. Let's wait for Lin Yi to come back first. Tang Yun didn't want to cause trouble when Lin Yi wasn't home. All right, we'll wait for Lin Yi to come back. Faubert nodded. Qin Tian's injuries were all internal. Qin Tian was a physical practitioner, and his meridians were of little use, but it would still affect his strength a little. Even if his injuries were healed, he wouldn't be able to return to his previous strength. Plus, his organs were all injured, and it wasn't something that could be healed in a short amount of time. According to normal treatment, he'd have to stay in bed for at least a year. However, Qin Tian's life wasn't in danger at the moment. This made Faubert and Tang Yun let out a sigh of relief. Qin Tian hadn't woken up yet, but he was out of danger. This way, they could just wait for Lin Yi to come back and treat his other injuries. However, the two bodyguards at home were injured. The situation was quite serious. Faubert had to be more careful in protecting Meng Yao and the others. He had to hold on until Lin Yi came back. It had only been 3 days since the bank robbery and the jewelry store robbery in Songshan, and now another shocking robbery had occurred. Another bank was robbed. The modus operandi was the same as before. It was a one-sided robbery with violence. The robber was still alone. After entering the bank, he did not say a word. He directly broke the counter window and jumped in to rob the bank. Then, he used violence to destroy the safety deposit box and took away the cash and foreign currency inside. The robbery method was very fast. The whole process was very short. In just a few minutes, the bank was emptied and the robber left the bank in a hurry. By the time the police arrived at the scene, the robber was long gone. This kind of method wasn't common. In the past, robbers always worked in groups. The first thing they did after entering the bank was to take hostages and threaten the bank staff to open the safety deposit box for them. This way, they would waste a lot of time and give the police enough time to get to the scene. But this robber's speed was shockingly fast. There was no hesitation at all. Lingshan didn't think that she'd run into such a big case as soon as she got back to the police station. What gave her a headache was that Lu Wangli told her that there were 2 other robberies that happened before, and the method was exactly the same. At first, Lingshan was very happy that she had arrested Old He, Old Kung, James, and Old Hao's men around the tomb. This case wasn't perfect, but it was done smoothly. The suspects were all arrested, and this was a great achievement. But Lingshan didn't even get the chance to rejoice when trouble came one after another. 3 robberies in such a short period of time. This drove Lingshan crazy. Just who was this person? How could they be so daring, committing crimes consecutively? Yu Qian and Lingshan returned to the police station together. They had planned to discuss the interrogation of the suspects, but now it seemed like they wouldn't be able to discuss it anytime soon. Yu Qian sighed as he saw Lingshan's frown. Lingshan, don't give yourself too much pressure. The robberies have already happened. There's no use worrying about it. We can only try our best to find clues. But from the looks of it, this person is definitely a practitioner as well. Yeah, it has to be a practitioner. This makes it harder to solve the case. Lingshan said, almost all the practitioners in Songshan have records here. I'm afraid we'll have to contact Feng Tianlong for help. This is a bit beyond our capabilities. That's right. If the suspect really is a practitioner, then we'll have to talk to the Secret Investigation Department and get them to send help. Yu Qian nodded. Let's talk about the tomb first. Chapter 14:12. But at that moment, a knock came from Lingshan's office door. Come in. Lingshan didn't think much of it. She thought it was her subordinate reporting on the progress of the investigation. But the person who opened the door wasn't one of Lingshan's subordinates, but Yu Feng from House Yu. Lingshan, I heard from the guard downstairs that you're back today, so I bought some good food to celebrate. Congratulations on your successful mission. Yu Feng walked in with a smile on his face. In his hand was a bag filled with all sorts of delicious food. In fact, Yu Feng had been coming to look for Lingshan quite a bit recently, but the guard said that Lingshan wasn't back yet. So, Yu Feng came here every day to see if Lingshan was back or not. The heavens didn't disappoint the hardworking, and Yu Feng quickly bought a bunch of good food to celebrate with Lingshan, as well as to get closer to her. The noble house meeting was just around the corner, and seeing that House Xiao had the support of the hidden house Pai, House Yu's position was in danger. Yu Feng knew that he had to get some support for his house in order to stand firm in the noble house meeting. Lingshan didn't expect it to be Yu Feng. She frowned. What the hell was this guy doing? She'd only been back for half a day, and he was already at her doorstep. Lingshan was quite troubled. Lingshan looked at Yu Feng. Why were you here? What's up? Didn't I tell you? I'm here to celebrate your successful mission. Yu Feng smiled. This case is closed, so you don't have anything to do now, right? You could go on a date with me now, right? You know that my father and Grandpa Song both want us to get closer. Who told you I don't have anything to do? Haven't you been watching TV lately? There's been a lot of robberies. I need to hurry up and study the case. If you don't have anything to do, please go back. I need to work. Lingshan said. What? Yu Feng paused, remembering that the news did report on the recent robberies in Songshan, but it didn't have much to do with him, so he didn't think much of it. But now that Ling Shan was talking about it, he realized that it had something to do with Ling Shan. This person was too wicked. Why did he have to rob others for no reason? If he found out who did it, he would definitely beat him into a cripple. Yu Feng cursed the robbers inwardly. Weren't they ruining his good fortune? If you needed money, you could have gone somewhere else. Why did you come to Ling Shan's turf? Are you purposely trying to mess with me? If that's the case. But we can't make an empty stomach. We cannot eat, right? It's almost time for dinner. It won't be too late to have a meal first before discussing the case, right? Yu Feng continued to persuade. No, it's not too late to eat after I finish studying the case. You eat first, Ling Shan said faintly and turned to Yu Qian. Let's continue our discussion. Ahem. Yu Feng felt a wave of annoyance. Why was this colleague of Ling Shan's so blind? He'd already said that, and this guy was still sitting there as if nothing had happened. Why didn't he realize that he was a third wheel? Yu Feng coughed and hinted, it's time to get off work. Even if you're working overtime, you should at least eat first, right? Plus, even if you don't eat, your colleague has to eat, right? You can't let them go hungry, can you? It's fine, I'm not hungry, Yu Qian said cooperatively. He knew that Ling Shan hated Yu Feng and didn't want to be with him. Naturally, he'd help her. Chen Yu Qian's words infuriated Yu Feng. Are you an idiot or what? What's wrong with you? It was such an obvious hint, and he couldn't tell. Yu Feng didn't know what to do. Mister, I'm going to have dinner with my girlfriend. You go eat first, okay? Your girlfriend? Yu Qian couldn't help but frown. He didn't want to get involved in this. After all, Ling Shan wasn't his girlfriend, and he didn't have the right to interfere. But Yu Feng's words were getting more and more out of hand, and he couldn't take it anymore. Ling Shan wasn't his girlfriend, but she was his sister. She was very important to him, and he could accept her being with someone she liked. As long as Ling Shan was happy, he wouldn't say anything. But Yu Qian wouldn't allow someone she didn't like to harass her. If it was before, Chen Yu Qian wouldn't have dared to challenge Yu Feng. After all, Yu Feng was a Mystic Class Master, and he was only an early phase Golden Class Master. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth, but now it was different. Both of them were Mystic Class Masters, and Chen Yu Qian had more confidence in his words. Naturally, Ling Shan, what's wrong with this colleague of yours? Why is he sticking his nose into other people's business? Yu Feng really wanted to slap Yu Qian away, but for Ling Shan's sake, he didn't do anything. He only scolded Yu Qian a little. I can ignore other people's business, but Lil Sis Ling Shan's business, I have to. Yu Qian was pissed off by Yu Feng's arrogant attitude. He stood up and looked at Yu Feng coldly. Yu Feng, is it? As a man, you need to have a backbone. She doesn't like you, and you're still following her around? What's the meaning of this? Do you think there's a point in doing this? Who do you think you are? Yu Feng didn't think that this guy in front of him would call Ling Shan Lil Sis, and say that he had to stick his nose in other people's business, and even say that he needed to have a backbone and stop harassing her. Who did he think he was? How dare he yell in front of him? If it weren't for Ling Shan, Yu Feng would have punched him already. My name is Chen Yu Qian. Yu Qian reached out his hand. I'm sure you've heard of my name. Yu Feng looked at Yu Qian's hand, not intending to shake it at all. Instead, he started laughing. I was wondering who it was, so it's House Chen's little bastard. It's hard to say if your House Chen can keep its position in the noble house meeting, and you still dare to show off? Early phase Golden Class. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if you've leveled up recently. Perhaps you're already a peak early phase Golden Class now. Yu Feng, watch your words. Is the heir of House Yu like you? Yu Qian retracted his hand. He was a little angry at Yu Feng's attitude. Chapter 14:13. I'll talk to different people. How do you expect me to talk to a fallen noble house? Yu Feng looked at Yu Qian with disdain. I'll be honest with you. If it weren't for your girl's engagement with an ancient sect, House Chen would have been removed from the noble house list a long time ago. But we don't even know if that engagement is real or fake. There's been no news for so long. I'm afraid it doesn't count anymore. Yu Qian's face turned ugly, but what Yu Feng said was the truth. Of course, it was the past, Yu Qian indeed couldn't hold up the Chun house back then. He spent his time with Jiang Wen and the others, having fun and being called one of the Songzhan young masters, but it was all too late. He'd missed the best age for practicing, seeing Ling Shan step by step into the ranks of practitioners while Yu Qian was stuck at the same spot. He decided to go out and train, going to the border and fighting with some smugglers and drug dealers, try to ignite his potential. But because of his age, Yu Qian didn't make any progress until he met Instructor Eagle. It was a training, and it was said that the investigation department spent a lot of effort to invite Eagle to be their instructor. It was because of Eagle that Yu Qian found the path of practicing and became a golden class early phase. However, even though he became a golden class master, he knew that he was still too weak. His current strength wasn't enough to support the entire House Chun. Many of the big boss's bodyguards were golden class masters, but Chen Yutian had no other choice. He could only work hard and improve his cultivation at the same time. He understood that if it weren't for his sister's engagement, House Chen wouldn't be where it was today. But even Yutian himself didn't believe in this engagement, let alone others. After so many years without any news, Chen Yutian even thought that Grandpa purposely set up a maze for House Chen's development. Otherwise, why would an ancient sect like his little sister who was still in her infant years ago? It didn't make sense at all. Yufeng, don't go too far, Chen Yuqian said coldly. If we don't get along, then you can leave. I still have work to discuss with Ling Shan's sis. Drive me away? Right? I suddenly remembered a rumor. Chen Yuqian, aren't you Ling Shan's pursuer? You've been chasing after him for so many years, but you still haven't caught up. What's wrong? Are you afraid that I'll beat you to it? Yufeng humphed mockingly. But, Yu Qian, let me tell you, Ling Shan and I are engaged by our families. You can't. There's nothing for you to do here. Hurry up and scram. Don't force me to chase you away. First of all, this is an office. I have work to discuss with Ling Shan, Chen Yutian said. Secondly, you should be the one to leave. You said it yourself. The marriage is arranged by the family, not by Ling Shan herself. She doesn't like you, and she already has someone else in her heart. If you know what's good for you, you should just give up in case you get rejected. It'll be embarrassing. All right, I've said what I need to say. You can do as you please. Someone in her heart. Yu Feng's face darkened. You're saying that the person she's in love with is you? It's not you. Yu Qian couldn't say Lin E for Ling Shan. Good. Very good. Yu Feng looked at Yu Qian, gritting his teeth and nodding. Chun Yutian, so you're saying that you're going to stick your nose into this? Of course, Yu Qian said firmly. Whether it was for Ling Shan or Lin Yi, he had to do something about it. Since they'd reached this point, he might as well settle it. Yu Feng sticking to Ling Shan every day would be a problem. You think you're something, don't you? Yu Feng didn't expect Yu Tian to go against him. These days, Yu Feng felt like he was going to die. He'd lost all his face after being pushed around by Lin Yi, and he'd even let it out when he was angry. He'd even quit school, and he hadn't had a chance to vent his anger yet. Now that Yu Qian from House Chun was here, he didn't need to be polite anymore. I don't think so. I'm just trying to reason with you. I'm telling you how annoying you are right now, Yu Qian said. Good, very good. Chen Yu Tian, since you're like this, then don't blame me for being impolite. Today, I'll let you taste the consequences of sticking your nose in other people's business. With that, Yu Feng channeled his practitioner's arts, and his qi surged out. He wasn't afraid of anything today. As far as he was concerned, it was Yu Tian who'd stuck his nose into other people's business. It was normal for him to teach Yu Tian a lesson. Plus, even if he beat Yu Tian up, what could House Chen do? They couldn't go to House Yu, could they? Would he dare? Mystic mid-phase? Yu Tian looked at Yu Feng. He didn't expect him to be a mystic mid-phase already. Good that you know. Yu Feng smiled coldly. Chen Yutian, you're asking for it. Don't blame me for being impolite. Yu Feng, what are you doing? Ling Shan didn't expect Yu Feng to channel his qi. She panicked. You want to fight? Fight? He doesn't deserve it. I'm just teaching him a lesson. Yu Feng said faintly. Teach me a lesson? Haha. Do you think I'm still the Chen Yuqian from before? With that, Yu Qian channeled his practitioner's arts, showing off his strength as a mystic early phase. Your mystic early phase? Yu Feng paused, surprised. Your mystic early phase? It's not just me. Lingshan is mystic early phase too. What's so great about being mystic mid-phase? Yuqian said faintly. Lingshan is mystic early phase. How did you guys become mystic early phase? That's impossible. Yufeng looked at Yuqian in disbelief. That doesn't make sense. You were golden class early phase before, right? I heard that no matter how fast you level up, you can't be mystic early phase now. Lingshan was golden class late phase peak before, but she just broke through, right? How did she break through again? Did a lot of things you don't know. Yuqian said proudly as he thought of Lin Yi. Lin, he was really his lucky star. Ever since he met him, his luck kept on increasing, and his strength increased quite a bit. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.